The sound I remember isn't my wife crying. It's Evan's fork dragging through the gravy on his plate. I came in through the mudroom with cold air following me, set my keys beside Lydia's blue purse, and heard that slow scrape from the kitchen. Evan was sitting at our table with one ankle over his knee, eating pot roast like he had nowhere else to be. The pantry door was nearly closed. At first I thought Lydia had gone in there for something, then I saw her fingers curled around the edge of a shelf. She was standing between the canned tomatoes and the 50-pound collection of baking supplies she insisted did not constitute hoarding. Her other hand was pressed over her mouth. "Lid?" She shook her head hard. Behind me, Evan said, "Don't." I turned. "Don't what? Make it bigger." He cut another piece of roast. She's having a moment. My wife had spent the afternoon cooking the food he was eating. She was crying 10 feet away, trying to keep quiet so she wouldn't disturb him, and he hadn't even stopped chewing. "What happened?" I asked. Lydia wiped her face with both hands. I told him I wouldn't call her. Evan gave a short laugh. "Ask her what she said first." "Put the fork down," I said. He looked at me then. Our son had my height, Lydia's brown eyes, and the peculiar confidence of a man who believed every room would eventually agree with him. "Dad, you weren't here." I walked over, took his plate, and carried it to the sink. "Hey, you need to go." He stared at me as if I had spoken in another language. 6 weeks earlier, I would have sworn there was no situation in which I'd take a plate from my 37-year-old son. 6 weeks earlier, I would have told you Evan was going through the hardest period of his life and handling it about as well as any man could. That was before I found out how much trouble a family can hide inside the phrase "going through a hard time." He called us on a Tuesday night in September. Lydia and I were eating takeout Chinese food because she had pottery class, and I had worked late at the municipal fleet garage. I was 3 Fridays away from retirement, which meant everybody had suddenly discovered tasks only I knew how to do. My replacement, Dennis, had spent 40 minutes asking me about a maintenance spreadsheet I'd explained twice. I told Lydia that if Dennis asked a third time, I was going to fake my own death before the retirement luncheon. "You wouldn't last a day," she said, picking mushrooms out of her lo mein. "You'd call the office to tell them they were loading the parts washer wrong." I'd disguise my voice. "You only have the one." That was when her phone rang. She looked at the screen and answered with the light, cheerful tone she used whenever one of our children called unexpectedly. "Hey, sweetheart." I kept eating until her face changed. "What do you mean you left?" She pushed her food away. I heard Evan's voice, not the words, just the rhythm of them, fast, then slow, angry, then wounded. Lydia made small sounds to let him know she was listening. I put my fork down. "Where are you now?" she asked. "No, of course you can come here." He arrived 40 minutes later, carrying a gym bag, despite having an apartment across town. He stood in our entryway wearing dark slacks, a white dress shirt open at the collar, and no coat. It was raining. Lydia rushed toward him with a towel. "You're soaked. I'm fine. You're dripping on the floor." "I said I'm fine, Mom." She stopped. Then she handed him the towel like a hotel employee who'd misunderstood the guest. Evan saw my face and pulled me into a hug. "Sorry," he said. "Bad night." He had a way of doing that. One sharp word followed by one warm gesture. And the warm gesture always got counted twice. We sat at the kitchen table. Lydia reheated the beef and broccoli. Evan said he wasn't hungry, then ate all of it directly from the carton while telling us Claire had asked him to leave. "Asked you to leave your house?" I said. "Our house. And technically I left." "Technically?" She said she needed space. I gave her space. Lydia sat beside him. "Did something happen?" "Nothing happened." "That's the problem. Nothing's enough for her." He spoke for almost 2 hours. Claire had become cold. Claire was always working. Claire objected to the way he spoke to her, which he described as Claire policing his tone. She had accused him of treating her like an employee, which made him laugh because, according to Evan, no employee would last a week if they were as uncommunicative as his wife. I had always liked Claire. She was quiet but not timid, with a deadpan sense of humor that arrived half a second after you thought she was serious. Once, when Evan complained that she alphabetized their spice rack, she said, "It's the only way I can keep track of the 8 jars of garlic powder your son keeps buying." That night, though, I didn't ask what she would say. When your son sits in your kitchen with rain drying on his shirt and tells you his marriage is coming apart, You don't cross-examine him. At least, that was what I told myself. Lydia reached for his hand. You can stay here tonight. I don't need to. We've got clean sheets on your old bed. Mom, I'm not 12. Then stop eating over the carton, I said. Your mother owns bowls. He smiled. It was the first time he'd smiled all night, and I felt absurdly proud of myself. He stayed 3 nights. The next morning, Lydia skipped pottery class to make him breakfast before work. It's not a class, she said when I mentioned it. It's open studio. You paid for it. I can go Thursday. She made eggs the way Evan liked them, with the edges firm and the yolks runny. She toasted sourdough, sliced a pear, and packed him leftover Chinese food even though his office sat above 3 restaurants. He came downstairs in one of my old college sweatshirts. I thought that thing was gone, I said. Mom kept it. Your mother keeps everything. Lydia slid eggs onto his plate. Except grudges. Evan kissed her cheek. That's why you're my favorite. Favorite what? Person who's awake. She laughed. It was easy then. That was the part I had trouble explaining later. Nothing looked sinister. A son was hurting. His mother fed him. His father made jokes. We were good parents in the most recognizable ways. By Friday, Evan had gone back to his apartment. By Sunday, he was at our house for dinner. Then he came Tuesday, then Thursday. At first he called. After a week, he started using his old key. I came home one evening and found him standing at the refrigerator with the door open. You paying the electric bill now? I asked. There's nothing to eat. There's half a chicken directly in front of you. That's for tomorrow, Lydia called from the laundry room. Evan shut the refrigerator. See? What were you expecting? He considered this as if I'd asked a serious question. Did Mom ever make that sausage pasta with the peppers? She did when you lived here. Think she still remembers it? Lydia appeared with a basket against her hip. I remember. He smiled. No pressure. She made it the next night. Marin called me that weekend. Our daughter was 40, blunt, and suspicious of any emotional crisis that required her to cancel plans. How's the refugee? She asked. He has his own apartment. Not according to Mom. She says she has to stock the orange seltzer again. He's having dinner with us. It's not a federal relocation program. 4 dinners this week. Are you tracking him? I call Mom. She tells me things. You could come to dinner too. Then she cooked 2 desserts and complain her knees hurt. Marin. I'm not criticizing her. I'm criticizing all of you. Evan gets sad, and suddenly it's 1998. His marriage might be over. I know. That's awful. But Mom's not an emotional support restaurant. I laughed because the phrase was funny. She didn't. Just pay attention, she said. I did pay attention, just not to the right things. I noticed Evan seemed better. He asked about my retirement. He offered to help clean out my locker at work. He watched football with me on Sundays and actually put his phone down. For years, most of our conversations had taken place through whatever task stood between us. A loose deck board, a tire that needed rotating, a television mounted 1 inch too low. Now he sat beside me and talked. He asked if I was nervous about retiring. I've been getting up at 5:30 since before you could walk, I said. I'm planning to sleep until October. It is October, next October. He smiled, then looked toward the kitchen. Mom's gonna drive you crazy. Your mother has survived me for 38 years. I'm serious. She needs people to need her. There was enough truth in it to make me uncomfortable. You need her right now, I said. That's different. Why? Because I'm her son. He said it lightly, but not like a joke. The Sunday before I found Lydia in the pantry, Claire called the house. I was in the garage, pretending to organize tools. Lydia spoke to her for 11 minutes. I know because Evan arrived while they were talking and stared at the kitchen clock. When Lydia hung up, he asked, "Why is she calling you?" She wanted to know if some serving dishes were here. They're not. I told her that. That took 11 minutes. Lydia folded the dish towel she was holding. She asked how we were. Meaning, she asked how I was. She cares about you. No, she wants updates. Evan. What did you tell her? Nothing that isn't mine to tell. His face hardened, then softened so quickly I wondered if I had imagined it. I'm just trying to know who I can trust, Mom. Lydia touched his arm. You can trust me. He hugged her. From the garage doorway, I watched her close her eyes against his shoulder. On the day of the pot roast, I left to help our neighbor Stan with a lawnmower that had not worked since the first Bush administration. When I came back early, Evan's car was in my spot. I heard his fork before I heard my wife. After he left, Lydia came out of the pantry, walked past me, and turned off the oven. Her face was blotched red, but her hands were steady. I said, "How long has he been talking to you like that?" She looked at the plate I had taken from him, then at me. "Long enough for you to have heard it," she said, "if you'd wanted to." "That's not fair," I said. Lydia gave me a look so tired it made the sentence sound childish. "No," she said, "it's accurate." She opened the cabinet under the counter and pulled out a stack of plastic containers. The pot roast was still in its heavy blue pan, surrounded by carrots, onions, and enough gravy to float something small. She began transferring everything, as if the order of the leftovers mattered. "Leave that," I said. "Why? You're upset. So I should let dinner spoil? I'll put it away. I know how to put away a roast, Ray." I stood with my hands useless at my sides. The plate I had taken from Evan sat in the sink. His fork was still on it. A bite of meat rested beside a small pile of mashed potatoes, which looked indecently normal. What did he want you to call Claire about? Lydia snapped the lid onto a container. He wanted me to explain him to her. Explain what? That he tried, that she didn't. That's vague. That's because it doesn't mean anything. She stacked carrots over meat. I reached for the pan, and she moved it out of my reach. He said, "Claire thinks he never valued what she did for him," she continued. "He wanted me to tell her he values people more than anyone I know. He said I could tell her how loyal he is to family. Is she talking about taking him back? No. Then why does he care what she thinks?" Lydia stared at me. I heard myself. Never mind. He cares because he wants to be innocent. He doesn't want his wife. He wants a favorable verdict. That sounds like Evan. It sounds like you too. There wasn't much volume in her voice, which made it worse. I leaned against the counter. What's that supposed to mean? You spend half your life trying to establish that you had good intentions. As if intentions are a receipt you can show when something breaks. I came home and found you crying. Yes. He sat there eating. Yes. I did something. At last. That one landed clean. She carried 2 containers to the refrigerator. The door opened, lighting her face. Behind a pitcher of iced tea sat 3 cans of orange seltzer Evan had left. Lydia shoved the containers onto the top shelf harder than necessary, and one of the cans rolled sideways. I picked it up. "What happened before I got here?" He came in angry. He said Claire had told him she didn't want him sending messages through other people. Was he doing that? He had asked a friend from work to call her. Why? To explain him. Apparently there's a lot of explaining needed. Lydia didn't smile. Then he said, "I should call because Claire trusts me." "Does she?" "I don't know. You've always gotten along." She shut the refrigerator. "No, we haven't." The kitchen went still around that. I set the can on the counter. "You and Claire?" I was polite to her. "That's not the same thing." "Not remotely." Lydia took the dish towel from the oven handle and folded it once, then unfolded it. When they were first married, I complained about her. Not to her. To him. I said she didn't make an effort with us. I said she treated holidays like appointments she had to fit between more important things. I said she could be cold. You said she was reserved. I said cold. Maybe once. Ray, stop adjusting my words. I closed my mouth. She didn't cook much, Lydia said. She didn't want my recipes. She didn't ask my advice about their house. I took all that personally because I wanted to be needed, and she didn't need me the way I expected. That doesn't make you a bad person. Would you let me finish being honest before you defend me? The answer was clearly no, but I nodded anyway. I liked it when Evan came to me frustrated with her. I liked that I knew what he wanted before she did. I thought that made us close. It never occurred to me that every time I told him Claire should be more patient, I was handing him another reason not to change. I tried to remember those conversations. There had been plenty. Sunday dinners when Evan stayed behind after Claire left early for work. Phone calls Lydia took in the bedroom. Little comments afterward. Claire doesn't understand how to let things go. Claire makes everything a discussion. Claire thinks asking nicely fixes the fact that she said no. Most of it had sounded like marriage, two people irritating each other in ways specific enough to qualify as intimacy. "What did he say to make you cry?" I asked. I told him I wasn't calling her. He said I owed him. For what? For raising him to expect women to take care of him. I pushed away from the counter. That's a hell of a thing to say to his mother. He wasn't entirely wrong. He is an adult. I know how old he is. He's responsible for his own marriage. Yes. Then why are we talking like you broke it? Because two things can be true at once, Ray. She held up the towel between us, then dropped it onto the counter. He said I was abandoning him because I was ashamed. He said I was more worried about Claire thinking I was a good mother than I was about being one. I told him to leave. He told me I was being dramatic. I walked into the pantry because I didn't want him to see me cry. And he sat down and ate. He was already eating. Did he know you were in there? He watched me go in. I looked at the pantry door. It had swung all the way open after Lydia came out. On the floor, beside a sack of flour, was the little wooden stool she used to reach the top shelf. She must have sat on it at first, and then stood when she heard me come in. He asked for more gravy, she said. That was the moment my anger became so clear it was almost pleasant. Anger simplified things. It gave every object an edge. I'm calling him. No, he needs to hear he's heard from you. He needs to apologize. He won't. Then I'll tell him not to come back until he does. Lydia rubbed her forehead. There you go. What? One man hurts me, so the other man gets to decide the terms of his return. I'm trying to stand up for you. I didn't ask you to. I'm your husband. You were my husband yesterday too. I picked up my phone. Lydia looked at it, then at me. If you call him now, you're doing it for yourself. Maybe I'm doing it because our son just treated you like something stuck to his shoe. You want to win the scene you walked in on. I want to understand how we got there. I called him anyway. Evan answered on the second ring. You ready to act like a person? He asked. I walked into the dining room, as if 8 feet in a doorway made the call private. You don't speak to your mother that way. You don't know what I said. I know she was crying in a pantry while you ate her dinner. I didn't put her in the pantry. That's your defense? My defense is that you came in during the last 30 seconds of a conversation and decided to play hero. Behind me, a container lid popped. Lydia was pressing the wrong size lid onto the leftovers. You're going to apologize, I said. For what? I gripped the phone. Evan? No, tell me. Am I apologizing for telling the truth? For eating food Mom made because she asked me to dinner? Or for not barging into a closet after she walked away from a conversation? She didn't ask you to dinner. Silence. I turned toward the kitchen. Lydia had gone still. You invited yourself, I said. I came to see my mother. You came to make her call your wife. My wife called her first, about serving dishes, according to Mom. Meaning what? Meaning Claire doesn't call anyone without a reason. Maybe the reason was serving dishes. You always liked her. It sounded like an accusation. I like plenty of people. I still manage not to marry them. Funny? Evan, what happened to your marriage is between you and Claire. Your mother isn't going to argue your case. You don't get to decide that. Neither do you. He breathed into the phone. I pictured him driving too fast, one hand on the wheel, anger expanding to fill whatever space he entered. Did she tell you what she used to say about Claire? He asked. She did. That stopped him. All of it, enough. And you still think I'm the bad guy? I think you're responsible for how you spoke to her today, right? Because we're all responsible now that it's my turn. He hung up. I stared at the screen. Lydia walked past me carrying the remaining containers. Feel better? Not particularly. But you got your turn. I almost argued. Instead, I rinsed Evan's plate. The gravy clung to the ceramic in a pale brown film. I ran the water too hot and burned 2 fingers. We didn't eat dinner. Lydia put the pot roast away and carried her purse upstairs. I turned off lights that didn't need turning off. The television stayed black. Without its usual noise, the house seemed to contain every click from the baseboard heaters. At 10, I found Lydia sitting on the edge of our bed in her pajamas, brushing her hair. Are you coming to bed? She asked. I figured you wanted space. I want you to stop figuring out what I want. I took off my shoes. She brushed her hair another 20 strokes, even though it was already smooth. I'm sorry, I said. For calling him? For not seeing it. She set the brush down. You saw pieces. I didn't know what they added up to. You didn't add them. That's fair. No, it isn't. It's true. I glanced at her in the mirror. That's a distinction you're enjoying tonight. It's been a bad night. I changed in the bathroom. When I came back, Lydia was under the covers, facing away from my side. I got in carefully, as if the mattress belonged to somebody else. At 5:30 the next morning, I woke out of habit. Retirement had not cured my body of the belief that buses were waiting for me. Usually Lydia slept until 7. That morning her side of the bed was empty. I found her in the kitchen drinking coffee from a travel mug. "You going somewhere?" "Pottery, this early?" "They open the studio at 6 on Mondays." "I thought you went Tuesdays." "I used to." She had on jeans and an old green sweater with a clay stain near the cuff. A canvas bag sat by the door. "I can make breakfast," I said. "I'm not hungry. I make a decent omelet. You make scrambled eggs you forget to scramble. That happened once. It happens every time." She almost smiled, but her phone buzzed on the counter. Evan's name appeared on the screen. Neither of us touched it. The buzzing stopped. A message appeared. Lydia turned the phone face down before I could read it. What did he say? "I don't know." "You could look." "I know." She picked up the canvas bag. "Are you coming back for lunch?" "I don't know, Ray. You keep saying that." "Because I don't know." At the door, she stopped and looked toward the kitchen. "I spent a long time thinking Claire was withholding something from him," she said. Warmth, approval, affection, whatever word he used that week. What changed? I started noticing how tired she looked whenever he was explaining what she'd done wrong. Lydia took her keys from beside the blue purse. "I owe her an apology. Now? Especially now. For what you said to Evan in private, for helping him turn it into permission." She opened the door, and morning air moved through the room. "I'm not going to ask her to forgive him," she said. "I'm going to tell her what I did." The door closed behind her. I stood in the kitchen with half a sentence still waiting in my mouth. It was something practical about the roads being slick. I had become very good at practical sentences during moments when something else was required. The coffee in the pot was fresh. Lydia had made enough for both of us without asking whether I deserved any, which somehow felt worse than if she'd poured it down the sink. I took a mug to the table and sat in Evan's chair. A crescent of gravy had dried near the placemat. I rubbed it with my thumb. It smeared instead of coming off. My phone rang. I expected Evan. It was Marin. "What happened?" she asked. "Good morning to you too. Evan called me at 12:30. Of course he did. He said you threw him out of the house in the middle of dinner. I told him to leave. He said you ripped his plate away. I picked it up. Did you throw it? I put it in the sink. Hard? How do you put something in the sink hard? I've met you." I looked at the plate. I didn't break it. "What did Mom do?" She cried. Marin was quiet. "Where?" she asked. "In the pantry." "Why was she in the pantry?" "I think she didn't want him to see. He said she got upset because he asked her to call Claire. He left out a few details, I assumed. The microwave clock said 6:19. Retirement had turned clocks into accusations. There was always time, which made it difficult to explain why I wasn't doing anything useful with it. "Marin, your brother sat at the table eating while your mother cried behind a door. I heard you." "No, I don't think you did." "And then you became Clint Eastwood?" "I told him to go home. He was home. He has an apartment." "You know what I mean?" "Yes, and that's half the problem," she sighed. "I warned you. You made a joke about orange seltzer. I told you to pay attention. You want credit?" "No. I want to know why you waited until Mom was crying in a closet before you decided there was a problem. Pantry. Thank God. That changes everything." I rubbed the gravy spot again. It flaked under my nail. "He was cruel to her," I said. "I believe you. Then what are we arguing about?" "We're arguing because you have a habit of ignoring things until they offend you personally. That's not true. Dad, you didn't care that Evan showed up whenever he wanted because he watched football with you. You cared when he made you feel powerless in your own kitchen. He made her cry, and you couldn't fix it. That isn't what this is about. It's a little what it's about." I heard movement on her end, a cabinet closing, water running. Marin could conduct an argument while making coffee, doing her taxes, and replacing a light fixture. Lydia said she'd inherited that from me. I had always thought it came from Lydia. "Where's Mom now?" she asked. "Pottery. At 6 in the morning? She changed studios." "No, she didn't. It's the same studio. She changed the time she goes because Evan took over Tuesday nights." I stopped rubbing the table. "How do you know that?" she told me. "She didn't tell me." "I'm beginning to see the family problem. You've been a lot of help this morning. I'm coming over. It's 6:20. I'm aware." She hung up. I tried to make breakfast. The first egg broke cleanly into the pan. The second dropped a piece of shell with it. I fished around using a spatula, chased the shell through the whites, and finally pinched it with my fingers. By then, the first egg had developed a brown lace around the edges. Lydia was right. I made scrambled eggs I forgot to scramble. I ate them standing over the sink. At 7, I cleaned the kitchen. Not the way I normally cleaned it, which meant putting obvious objects somewhere less obvious. I wiped the stove, washed the roasting pan, dried the plate Evan had used, and carried the little wooden stool out of the pantry. I didn't know why I moved it. Once it was in the kitchen, it looked accusatory. I carried it back and placed it exactly where it had been, beside the flour. Marin arrived at 7:15 in black work pants, running shoes, and a gray coat she hadn't buttoned. She held a cardboard tray with 2 coffees and a paper bag. "You have coffee?" she said, seeing my mug. "You called before civilized people were awake. You answered. I'm retired. Apparently that means I'm available for emotional emergencies." She handed me the bag. Blueberry muffin, peace offering, carbohydrate. She set 1 coffee on Lydia's side of the table, then took off her coat. Marin had my square chin and her mother's ability to make silence feel intentional. "What exactly did he say to her?" she asked. I told her. I included Lydia's remarks about Claire. I included Evan saying Lydia owed him. I included the gravy. Marin sat very still at that part. "He asked for more gravy while she was crying?" That's what she said. Jesus! Now you understand why I took the plate. No, I understand why you wanted to put it over his head. I didn't. Congratulations on your restraint. That sounds sarcastic. It is sarcastic. You don't get a medal for not assaulting dinnerware. I tore the top off the muffin. Why did he call you? To tell me you and Mom chose Claire over him. We didn't choose anybody. You chose Mom. She's my wife. I'm not saying it was wrong. You're making it sound like 2 teams. That's how he sees it. Then he sees it wrong. Marin looked toward the mudroom. Lydia's blue purse was still beside my keys, but the canvas pottery bag was gone. Evan's orange seltzer sat alone on the counter where I'd left it. "What did Mom's message say?" she asked. She didn't read it. "Did you?" It was her phone. That has never stopped you from glancing over someone's shoulder. It was face down. Marin took a drink. He texted me too. What did he say? That he'll give her space until you apologize. For what? Humiliating him? In front of who? Mom. I laughed once. That's rich. Not to him. You're defending him again? No, I'm translating. He's very good at turning shame into an invoice. The line sounded like Lydia, and I wondered which of them had said it first. Marin picked at the cardboard sleeve on her cup. "He's not evil," she said. "I didn't say he was. He's wrecked right now. Being hurt doesn't make you unable to see another person crying. No. But if we make this the one moment that defines him, he'll use that to avoid everything underneath it." I stared at her. "You practice that in the car. A little. What do you suggest?" "I suggest you stop acting like the only choices are letting him walk over Mom or banning him from the kingdom. I didn't ban him. You said he couldn't come back until he apologized. I said that to your mother. I didn't get a chance to say it to him because he hung up. So currently he's under an imaginary ban. I was going to make it real. Ask Mom what she wants. She doesn't know. Then wait until she does. Waiting had always been my specialty. It felt strange to hear it proposed as an action. Lydia came home at 8:30. There was dried gray clay on the front of her sweater and a new smear on her cheek. She saw Marin's coat and stopped. "Evan called you." "That's why I came," Marin said. "The muffin was for Dad, though. Your priorities remain questionable." Lydia put down her bag. Marin stood and hugged her. Lydia held on longer than usual. When they separated, Marin wiped the clay from her own shoulder. "You got me." "Sorry. It's fine. This coat has seen things." I poured Lydia fresh coffee. She accepted the mug without comment and sat at the table. "Did you read his message?" I asked. "No." Marin looked at me. "What?" "Nothing," she said. Lydia turned her phone over. The message was still on the lock screen. She read it silently, then slid the phone toward us. "I'm giving you some time. When Dad is ready to apologize for putting his hands on my food and throwing me out before I could explain, we can talk. I love you. I'm not going anywhere." Marin read it twice. "He put his hands on my food," I said. "What is he? The government?" Lydia took the phone back. "Don't make it funny." "I wasn't." "You were. It's a ridiculous sentence. That doesn't make it harmless." Marin sat beside her. "Are you going to answer?" "I don't know." "Mom, I have spent 24 hours answering men who already decided what I meant. I'd like a morning off. Maren leaned back. I took my coffee to the sink even though the mug was full. What do you need from us? She asked. Today? Today. I need neither of you to call your brother. I already did, I said. I know. I mean, again, I know what you mean. Lydia looked from me to Maren. And I'm calling Claire. Maren's eyebrows went up. To apologize, Lydia said. Not to talk about Evan. Evan will say you're interfering, Maren said. He says I'm interfering when I speak and abandoning him when I don't. That's true. I helped him hurt her. You complained about your daughter-in-law. That isn't exactly a criminal conspiracy. No, it's more ordinary than that. The words sat with us. Lydia took her coffee into the living room. I heard her scroll through contacts, then the soft chirp of a call connecting. Maren lowered her voice. Should we leave? Yes, I said. No, Lydia called from the other room. Just don't listen. Maren looked at me. That should be easy for you. I pointed toward the door. She stayed. Claire didn't answer. Lydia left no message. She came back to the kitchen with her mouth pressed into a narrow line. She'll call when she's ready, Maren said. Or she won't. She will. You don't know that. No, but she asked about serving dishes. That's practically a diplomatic opening. Lydia smiled despite herself. Maren left for work a few minutes later. At the door, she kissed Lydia's cheek and squeezed my arm. Don't call him, she whispered. I heard your mother. I know you heard her. I'm asking if you listened. After she left, Lydia went upstairs to shower. I sat in the quiet house and tried not to turn waiting into resentment. Claire called at 11:16. Lydia's phone rang on the counter. She came down with wet hair and stopped when she saw the name. You don't have to do it now, I said. That would be convenient. For who? Exactly. She answered and walked into the dining room. I stayed in the kitchen. Our rooms were separated by a wide doorway and no actual door, which made not listening largely theoretical. Claire, Lydia said, thank you for calling. A pause. No. Nothing happened to him. Another pause. Longer. I'm calling about me. I ran water into the sink. Lydia told me later I'd made more noise pretending not to hear than I would have made listening openly. She said, I owe you an apology. Then she was quiet for nearly a minute. No, she said finally. I'm not asking you to do anything with it. Claire's voice rose once, not in anger exactly, but sharp enough that I heard the shape of it. Lydia sat down. You're right, she said. I did say that. I turned off the water. When the call ended, she stayed in the dining room. I waited until she came back. Her eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying. What did Claire say? Lydia picked up the dish towel and folded it along its existing crease. She said Evan told her I thought she made everything in marriage a negotiation. Did you? Yes. I remembered the sentence. Lydia had said it after a holiday dinner when Claire left early. I had agreed. What else? She said the worst arguments were never about what he wanted. They were about what her refusal supposedly proved. If she didn't cook, she didn't value him. If she went to bed before he was ready to stop talking, she didn't care that he was hurting. If she asked for an apology, she was keeping score. I pulled out a chair. She said she spent years defending herself against meanings he assigned to ordinary things. Did she accept your apology? Lydia looked at me. She said it wasn't my job to make him decent. That sounds like forgiveness. No, it sounds like accuracy. She smoothed the towel flat against the counter. Then she asked why I believed her now. What did you say? The truth. I waited. I told her I saw him keep eating. I looked toward the pantry. That was enough? For Claire to believe I meant the apology? No. For you to believe her. Lydia's hand stopped moving on the towel. I believed Evan, she said. That's different. Is it? Yes. I didn't think Claire was lying. I thought she misunderstood him. That sounds like not believing her with better manners. I'm aware of how it sounds. She folded the towel again, making it smaller and smaller. She asked whether I would have called if he'd cried instead. What did you say? I said I didn't know. I wanted to tell her that wasn't fair. I had used the sentence once already that day and gotten nowhere with it. Claire wasn't trying to hurt you, I said. You don't know that. Did it hurt? Yes. Then maybe she was. Lydia looked up. I'm not defending Evan. I'm saying Claire's allowed to be angry. I know she is. Knowing it doesn't mean you enjoy being the target. I didn't call her to enjoy it. We had become so careful with each other that every sentence arrived wearing protective equipment. My phone buzzed on the table. Evan's name appeared this time. I turned the screen over. Lydia watched me do it. I'm not calling him. I didn't say anything. You looked. I'm still allowed to look at you. Within reason. That got half a smile. It vanished when her phone rang. She checked the screen. Evan? She nodded. Are you answering? I don't know. The ringing continued. On the sixth ring, she picked up. Hello? Evan was loud enough that I heard his voice from where I stood, though not every word. Why would you call her? He demanded. Lydia pulled out a chair and sat down. I apologized. For what? For things I said about her. She called you, didn't she? No, she set this up. Evan, I called her. Because Dad told you to? I walked toward the doorway. Lydia held up one finger without looking at me. I stopped. No one told me to. Then why now? Because now I understand some things I should have understood sooner. So she gave you her version. I didn't call to discuss your marriage. A brittle laugh came through the phone. You discussed it plenty when I was living it. You're right. That stopped him longer than any argument could have. Lydia continued. I said things about Claire that were unfair. I let you bring me your complaints, and I acted like agreeing with you was the same as supporting you. Are you serious? Yes. You think this is about you? I think my apology was. You don't get to hand her a weapon and then say it's personal growth. An apology is not a weapon. You have no idea what she'll do with it. She doesn't have to do anything with it. She'll use it to prove I turned everyone against her. Lydia closed her eyes. Did you? Did I what? Turn people against her? I had never seen Lydia ask Evan a question she didn't already know how to soften. This one arrived without padding. His answer was quieter. I came to my family when my wife was shutting me out. That's not what I asked. Now you sound like her? Lydia gripped the phone. I watched her face, waiting for the old reflex, the apology, the reassurance, the quick change of subject. It came close. I saw it reach her eyes. Then she said, maybe that's because she asked a fair question. He hung up. Lydia kept the phone against her ear a second longer, then put it on the table. Well, I said, don't. I wasn't going to say anything. You were going to say I handled that well. You did. I don't need a performance review. Everybody needs a little feedback. She stood. I stepped aside quickly. You're angry with me, I said. I'm angry with everybody. That seems tiring. It is. I understand why you avoid it. She went upstairs. I sat at the table until the refrigerator motor clicked on. 3 weeks into retirement, I had pictured long mornings, small repairs, maybe lunch with men I had spent years claiming I did not like. I had not pictured sitting alone at 11:30, afraid to turn on the television because it might look as though I wasn't taking my family's collapse seriously enough. I made sandwiches at noon, turkey, mustard, lettuce. I put Lydia's on a plate and carried it upstairs. She was in the spare room with a cardboard box of old photographs open beside her. She wasn't crying. She was holding a picture from Evan and Claire's wedding. I made lunch, thank you. Do you want it here? I'm not sick. I didn't say you were. You're carrying food upstairs on a tray. It's a plate. I set it on the dresser. In the photograph, Evan was bent toward Claire, whispering something that made her laugh. Lydia stood behind them in a dark blue dress, one hand on Claire's shoulder. You looked happy, I said. I was happy. What did she say at the wedding? Who? Claire. A lot of things. It was her wedding. To you. Lydia studied the photograph. She thanked me for welcoming her. You did welcome her. I welcomed her into the place I had decided she should occupy. I don't know what that means. It means I loved her best when she was grateful. I sat on the edge of the bed. That's true of most people. It shouldn't be true of family. Family is where it's most true. She handed me the photograph. You are remarkably comforting. It's one of my gifts. The door opened downstairs. We both froze. A second later, Evan called, Mom? He still had his key. Lydia stood so fast the sandwich plate rattled against the dresser. I followed her into the hall. Evan was at the bottom of the stairs in the same clothes he'd worn the night before, except his shirt was wrinkled and his hair looked as though he'd been running his hands through it. You didn't answer, he said. You hung up on me, Lydia replied. I needed to cool down. So you came here? I need to talk to you. You could have knocked. Evan looked at me. Is that Dad's new rule? It's mine, Lydia said. He turned back to her. Since when? Since you started coming in without asking. I have a key. That answers how, not whether you should. He took the key ring from his pocket and held it up. You gave me this, years ago, and now I'm a stranger? No. Then what am I? Lydia came down the stairs. She stopped 2 steps above the floor, which put her almost level with him. You're my son, you're an adult, and you don't live here. Evan's eyes moved to me again. Did he write this for you? Stop doing that. Doing what? Making your father responsible when I say something you don't like. He threw me out. After I asked you to leave, his mouth tightened. You didn't mean it. Yes, I did. You were upset. I can mean things while I'm upset. I remained halfway down the stairs, aware that I was physically above them both and hating the symbolism of it. I came down and moved into the living room. Evan followed Lydia to the kitchen. I don't understand what happened, he said. A week ago, you said Claire was being cruel. No, I said refusing to speak to you must feel cruel. That's the same thing. It isn't. This is what she does. She changes the definitions after the fact. So I'm always wrong. Claire isn't here. She doesn't have to be. You called her, and now you're talking like her. Lydia went to the refrigerator and opened it, then seemed to catch herself. She closed it without taking anything out. Evan noticed. You don't have to feed me, he said. No one said you were hungry. I haven't eaten. The sentence sat between them with the familiar shape of a request. Lydia's hand remained on the refrigerator handle. I watched her thumb press into the brushed steel. There are restaurants between your apartment and here, she said. He looked genuinely shocked. Wow, it isn't punishment. It feels like punishment. Not being served isn't punishment. He laughed, but his eyes had gone wet. I came here because I have no one. You came here because I don't make you explain yourself. I explain myself constantly. You argue your case constantly. That's not the same thing. What do you want me to say? I want you to be sorry that you hurt me. I'm sorry Dad made everything worse. Lydia let go of the refrigerator. That isn't an apology. I'm trying. No. You're trying to get past it. His face changed then. The anger slipped, and for a second he looked exhausted rather than offended. I slept on the couch last night, he said. In your apartment? It was too quiet in the bedroom. Lydia's shoulders softened. He saw it. So did I. Mom, I don't know how this became me against everybody. It doesn't have to be. It already is. Dad took your side. You took Claire's. Marin lectured me for an hour. It was 12 minutes, I said. Both of them looked at me. That wasn't helpful, Lydia said. I was providing context. Evan shoved his hands into his pockets. What am I supposed to do? Go home, Lydia said. Eat something. Take a shower. Stop calling Claire through other people. So, I'm not welcome here. That isn't what she said, I told him. It's what she means. Lydia stepped toward him. You are welcome when you're invited. You can call. You can come to dinner if we agree on dinner. You cannot walk in, demand that I fix things, and call it love. Demand? Yes. I asked you for one phone call, and when I said no, you punished me. I told you the truth. You used the truth like a knife and blamed me for bleeding. Evan stared at her. I had never heard Lydia speak that way to him. Judging by his face, neither had he. He pulled the key ring out again. With quick, angry movements, he worked our house key off the ring. Fine. Lydia held out her hand. For 1 second, neither moved. Then Evan closed his fist around the key. No, he said. I'll return it when I decide whether I'm coming back. He walked out. The front door slammed hard enough to shake the framed photograph above the entry table. Lydia stood in the kitchen. I waited for her to crumble or chase him. She did neither. You were right, I said carefully. He was using the food. She turned on me. You felt sorry for him. So did you. I'm his mother. I'm his father. And that has always meant something easier. I had no answer. The key came back the next morning. It slid through the mail slot and struck the entry tile while we were drinking coffee. By the time I opened the door, Evan's car was already turning at the end of the street. Lydia picked up the key. She didn't put it back in the bowl beside the door. She closed her hand around it and stood there until the metal left a mark in her palm. Lydia opened her hand. The key had pressed a small silver curve beneath her ring finger. She set it on the entry table, not in the wooden bowl where we kept spare change and things neither of us wanted to identify. Her phone buzzed in the kitchen. We both looked toward it. That'll be him, I said. Probably. Neither of us moved. The coffee went cold. The key remained by the door. Around 10, Lydia picked it up and put it in the junk drawer between a roll of tape and 3 dead batteries. I nearly asked why she was keeping it, then decided there were mornings when a man could benefit from recognizing a bad question before it left his mouth. Evan's message had gone to me. I hope you're satisfied. Claire spent years trying to turn you both against me, and now she finally did it. Mom will figure that out eventually. Don't contact me until she does. I read it twice. Lydia stood at the sink, rinsing her mug. What did he say? I handed her the phone. She read the message without changing expression, then gave it back. He thinks Claire planned this, I said. He thinks everyone plans everything except him. You called her? Yes. That gave him something to point to. I know. I'm not saying you shouldn't have. You're saying it made things harder. It did. For him, for everybody. She put her mug in the dishwasher. I am not going to regret apologizing because Evan dislikes the consequences. I didn't ask you to. No, you're just walking around the request. She left for pottery 20 minutes later. The house stayed quiet the rest of the day. I changed the furnace filter, even though I'd changed it 2 weeks earlier. I tightened a cabinet hinge that was not loose. At 11:30, I opened the refrigerator and found the remains of the pot roast. For years, leftovers had been visible, but not available until Lydia declared them available. The roast might be dinner or lunch, or something she intended to turn into sandwiches. I stood there waiting for instructions from a woman who wasn't home. Then I remembered I was 64 years old. I made a sandwich. It had too much mustard. Evan called the next afternoon. I was in the garage labeling drawers nobody else used. His name appeared on my phone, and I answered before deciding whether I should. I thought I wasn't supposed to contact you, I said. You didn't. That's true. Can you meet me? Where? Danner's. The diner sat halfway between his apartment and our house. Evan had eaten there after late football practices years ago, back when he could finish a cheeseburger, fries, and a milkshake, and ask what was at home. What for? To talk without Mom interrupting. Your mother doesn't interrupt much. That's the problem. I should have told Lydia before I went. Instead, I left a message on the kitchen counter saying I'd gone out. It wasn't secrecy exactly. It was the old habit of presenting difficult decisions after they became facts. Evan was in a booth by the window. He wore a navy sweater Claire had given him one Christmas. I remembered because Lydia had found the same sweater on sale 2 weeks later and bought one for me. Mine was somewhere upstairs with the tag still attached. There was coffee in front of him. No food? I asked. I'm not hungry. I sat across from him. That's new. He didn't smile. A waitress came over. I ordered coffee. Evan waited until she left. Did Mom tell you what Claire said? Some of it, which means all of it. She told me about the phone call. So, you know Claire blamed me for everything. She described her experience. He stared at me. You even sound like her now. Apparently it's contagious. I asked you to come because I thought you might listen. I am listening. No, you're waiting for a chance to show me how reasonable you are. The waitress set down my coffee. Evan thanked her warmly. It was the kind of small courtesy that made cruelty elsewhere more confusing. I added cream. What do you want me to understand? I asked. That Claire knows how to do this. She takes one thing and builds a whole story around it. What one thing? If I get frustrated, I'm controlling. If I want to talk something through, I'm exhausting her. If I expect a little effort, I'm treating her like staff. You asked your mother for more gravy while she cried. I did not ask her while she cried. She was in the pantry. She walked into the pantry. You knew why? She wanted me to follow her. How do you know? Because that's what Mom does. She gets quiet, she walks away, and then somebody has to go find her. I set down my spoon. Did you go find her? No. Why not? Because I was tired of being manipulated? You thought she was manipulating you? I thought she wanted me to feel like a monster for saying something true. So you kept eating. I hadn't eaten all day. The answer was so plain that I almost missed what was inside it. Evan, she made the meal. I know. She was hurt. I was hurt too. Did that make you unable to put down a fork? His face tightened. There, he said. That's the story now. I ate dinner. I'm a terrible son. No one called you terrible. You didn't have to. You threw me out. I asked you to leave. You took my plate like I was 5. You were acting like you were 5. That's exactly what Claire says. Anytime I need something, I'm a child. You didn't need gravy. It's not about the gravy. I know. He leaned back and crossed his arms. For a while we watched cars move past the window. A woman in a red coat fought with a parking meter. The meter won. Evan looked older than he had at our table. Not old, but worn at the edges. There was a gray thread in his hair near one temple. I had not noticed it before. "You like her better," he said. "Claire? You always did? I like not being asked to pick." "That's convenient." It was. He looked surprised. I took a drink of coffee. "I let your mother handle most of the difficult things," I said. "With you, with Marin, with everybody. I told myself she was better at it. She was. That doesn't mean it was fair, no. It means you got to be the calm one while she did all the work." There was no anger in his voice. That made it harder to dismiss. "You're right," I said. He blinked. "I should have noticed what was happening sooner." "With Claire?" "With all of it. And now I'm the only one who has to apologize." "No. That's what it looks like. Your mother apologized to Claire. For what she said. Not for raising me this way." I felt the old anger rise again. "She didn't assemble you from spare parts. At some point, you became responsible for yourself. Sure, everybody is responsible for themselves, except Mom when she cries. That's not what I said. She gets to say whatever she wants because she was in the pantry. What did she say that was so awful? She said I used her against Claire. Did you?" "No." The answer came too quickly. "Did you repeat things your mother said? I talked to my wife about my family. Did you tell Claire your mother agreed with you?" "Sometimes." "Did you tell your mother Claire agreed with you?" He looked toward the window. "That was an answer?" "I'm not saying Mom did nothing wrong," he said. "I'm saying Claire wanted her to admit it so she could use it against me." "Your mother called Claire." "Because Claire planted the idea during that serving dish call. You really believe that?" "I know my wife. Apparently not well enough to know she was leaving." His eyes snapped back to mine. The sentence had come out colder than I intended. Intentions, Lydia would have reminded me, were not receipts. "I'm sorry," I said. "Don't. That was cheap. You think apologizing makes it disappear? No? Then why do people keep doing it? Because the alternative is pretending we didn't do anything." He stared at the coffee between his hands. "I came here to see if you'd act like my father," he said. "I am your father. No? Your mom's husband. I'm both. You already chose. Your mother was crying. So was I last night. The waitress returned and asked if we needed anything. Evan said no. I asked for the check. Outside, the air smelled like rain and diesel. Evan shoved his hands into his pockets. "Are you coming Sunday?" I asked before I could stop myself. He looked at me. "Mom didn't invite me." "I'm asking, did she tell you to?" "No." "Then you're doing it again." "Doing what?" "Trying to fix things so you don't have to feel bad." He walked to his car. I didn't call after him. Lydia's car was in the driveway when I got home. She was at the kitchen table with a lump of gray clay in front of her and my note beside it. "What is that?" I asked. "A bowl. It has ambitions. It collapsed." "You brought it home?" "I paid for the clay. I'm entitled to my failure." I took off my jacket. "How was Evan?" The question stopped me. "How did you know?" "You wrote 'went out' on the back of an envelope and left your phone charger. You only do that when you're in a hurry and don't want to explain yourself." He called. I assumed. We had coffee. "Did you invite him to dinner?" I hesitated. Lydia looked down at the collapsed bowl. It slipped out. Invitations don't slip. I asked if he was coming, Sunday. "And?" He said you didn't invite him. "I didn't. I know." "Then why did you?" "Because he looked terrible. So do I." I noticed. "Did you?" Her fingers pressed into the soft clay. "I didn't invite him on your behalf," I said. I asked a question. "You tried to open a door I had just closed. He's our son. He's been our son every minute he hasn't called me." I sat across from her. "He said something true. That must have been exciting." He said, "I got to be calm because you did the hard parts." She lifted her eyes. I told him he was right. "And did that make him apologize?" "No." "Did it make you feel better?" "No." "Then maybe truth isn't supposed to be a transaction." I leaned back. He said you walking into the pantry was manipulation. Lydia's fingers went still in the clay. "He thought I wanted him to follow me?" "Yes." "Did he?" "No." She looked at the ruined bowl for a long time. "I did want him to follow me," she said. "I hadn't expected that. I wanted him to care that I was crying. I wanted him to come in and say he was sorry. That doesn't make it manipulation." "No. But I knew how to make people come after me. I've done it to you. I usually deserve it. That isn't the point. She lifted the clay, turned it over, and pressed her thumb through the bottom. Missing him doesn't mean I should invite him back, she said. I know. Feeling sorry for him doesn't mean we feed him until nothing happened. I know. You're agreeing quickly. I'm learning. Don't be charming. I'm not. This is my natural manner. She almost laughed again. Sunday came without an invitation. At 4, Lydia peeled 6 potatoes. She stared at them on the cutting board, counted twice, then put 2 back in the pantry. At 6, we sat down to roast chicken. The chair between us remained empty. Lydia served herself, then reached automatically toward the empty place with the spoon. She stopped before the potatoes touched the plate. Neither of us said his name. We ate anyway. After dinner, Lydia wrapped the remaining chicken and put it on the top shelf. Is that lunch? I asked. It's chicken. I can see that. Then we're making progress. I washed the plates. She dried. We moved around each other with the exaggerated courtesy of strangers sharing a kitchen. When I finished, I opened the refrigerator and pointed at the container. I'm asking whether you have plans for it. No. So I can eat it tomorrow, if you're hungry. Is that a yes? Ray, I am not issuing permits for leftovers anymore. I was trying to be considerate. You were trying to make me responsible for your decision. It's chicken, Lydia. I know. That's why this is a good place to practice. I shut the refrigerator. Fine. I'll make a decision about the chicken. Good. I may decide not to eat it out of principle. That'll show it. We watched television for an hour without absorbing anything. At 10, Lydia went upstairs. I stayed in my chair until the weather report came on for the 3rd time. The next morning, I drove to the Fleet garage. I told myself I needed to return a socket wrench. It was a 3/8-inch drive with a red stripe around the handle, and it belonged to me. The garage looked the same from the street. Inside, it had changed in ways designed to make me feel unreasonable for noticing. Somebody had moved the waste oil drum. Dennis had replaced my handwritten inspection board with a monitor. My old locker had his name taped over mine, crookedly. He saw me near the tool cage. Ray. Hey. Brought this back. He looked at the wrench in my hand. That's yours. I know. You don't have to return your own tools. I was in the neighborhood. I lived 22 minutes away. Dennis wiped both hands on a rag and glanced toward a bus lifted over one of the service bays. How's Freedom? He asked. Quiet. Sounds nice. You'd think. A mechanic named Luis passed behind us carrying a brake chamber. He gave me a quick wave. Morning, Ray. Check the mounting bracket on 37, I called. That one was pulling left last month. Luis kept walking. Got it. Dennis shifted his weight. What? I asked. Nothing. That means something. We replaced the steering gear last week. I didn't say it was the steering. We fixed it. All right. He smiled, but there was effort in it. You want coffee? The pot in the break room had been sitting long enough to qualify as roofing material. I drank it anyway, while Dennis checked his phone and answered 2 questions over the radio. Nobody needed me to answer them. A clipboard lay on the table with the morning assignments. I picked it up. Dennis gently took it from my hand. We're a little slammed today, I can tell. I mean, I'd sit, but go. You sure? I worked here 38 years. I know what slammed looks like. He hesitated. Everything's good, he said. It was meant to reassure me. Instead, it followed me all the way to the parking lot. When I got home, the chicken was still on the top shelf. Lydia's car was gone. A note on the counter said, "Studio until 3." There was no instruction about lunch. I took out the chicken, cut some into pieces, and put it between 2 slices of bread with mustard. Less mustard this time. I ate at the kitchen table and wondered when feeding yourself stopped feeling like evidence. Lydia came home carrying a shallow cardboard box. You went to the garage, she said. How do you know? You smell like diesel. I always smell like diesel, not since you retired. She set the box on the table. Inside was the collapsed bowl, now fired and glazed a deep green. The hole she'd pushed through its bottom had widened in the kiln. It's worse, I said. It's finished. What do you do with a bowl that can't hold anything? Apparently bring it home to be insulted. She carried it toward the stairs. Where are you going? Spare room. What for? To put this with my supplies. Since when are your supplies in there? Since this morning. I followed her. The spare room had been Evan's once. After he moved out, it became the place where luggage, wrapping paper, and furniture with unresolved futures gathered. The bed was still there, but Lydia had shifted it against the wall. A folding table stood beneath the window. On it sat clay tools, brushes, 2 jars, and 3 unfinished pieces covered in plastic. You move the bed, 6 feet. That's where the reading lamp plugs in. The lamp hasn't worked since March. I was going to fix it. It's November. She placed the green bowl on the windowsill. I looked at the room and felt a flash of irritation so pure it embarrassed me. You could have asked. To move furniture in our house? To turn this into a studio? I didn't turn it into anything. I put up a table. What if we have guests? They can sleep beside Clay. You know what I mean. Yes, she said. I do. She removed her sweater and hung it over the back of the chair. I spent years leaving rooms ready for people who might need them. I need this one now. It's your house too. 2? That came out wrong. It came out honest. No, it came out fast. She looked toward me. Intentions and receipts, I said. That softened her, but not much. How was the garage? She asked. Fine. Did you return something that already belonged to you? I stared at her. The socket wrench, she said. It's gone from the workbench. I had a reason? Was the reason you missed being asked questions? I went to see people. Did they have time? Not much. She sat on the edge of the bed. I leaned against the doorframe. Dennis said everything's good. That must have hurt. It did, actually. I know. You could try not sounding pleased. I'm not pleased. I'm noticing. What? That you and Evan both show up somewhere without being invited because you need to feel necessary. That's different, is it? Yes, I worked there. He grew up here. The comparison irritated me because it fit better than I wanted. I didn't demand lunch. No. You asked the garage to make you useful. And what are you doing? Making a bowl that can't hold water. That wasn't my question. It's my answer. I looked at the green bowl. Light came through the hole in the bottom and made an oval on the sill. You know, I said, there's probably a lesson in that thing. If you say it doesn't need to be useful to have value, I will throw it at you. I was going to say we can put a candle in it, she considered. That might work. I cooked dinner that night. The recipe said to brown the chicken thighs in batches. I decided batches were an affectation. 6 pieces went into the pan at once, lowering the temperature so they steamed in their own liquid. When I turned the heat up to compensate, the garlic burned. Lydia came into the kitchen and sniffed. How's it going? Well, something's black. It's browned. Is that the same? Tonight it is. She opened a window. We ate chicken that was pink near the bone and bitter on the outside. After one bite, Lydia put down her fork. I can put it back in the oven, I said. I think we should stop hurting it. We ordered pizza. When the delivery arrived, she paid while I carried my failed dinner to the trash. Wait, she said. What? Save the vegetables. They taste like burned garlic. So does everything. It gives them character. We scraped them into a container. She handed it to me. Lunch, she said. Is that an instruction? It's revenge, Marin called while we were eating pizza. I need you both to behave normally, she said. Lydia put her on speaker. That request lacks precedent. Evan's bathroom ceiling is leaking. His landlord says they have to open the wall. Is he all right? Lydia asked immediately. He's dry. Where is he staying? With me. Lydia's hand tightened around her pizza crust. For how long? I asked. Couple days, maybe a week. Does he need? Lydia began, then stopped. Marin heard it. He has clothes. He has a toothbrush. He can purchase food. I wasn't going to offer food. You were going to ask if he needed anything. I'm his mother. And I'm telling you, he's fine. Why did he call you? Because he isn't speaking to either of you. The answer carried more weight than the words required. Lydia looked at the phone. We didn't ask you to get in the middle. I know. I found the middle when he showed up with a gym bag. The gym bag. I pictured him in our entryway on that rainy Tuesday night, dripping on the floor while Lydia offered him a towel. Did he tell you we threw him out? I asked. He has described the plate incident several times. Plate incident. That's what I'm calling it, because Pantry Sunday sounds like a church event. Lydia covered her mouth, but a laugh escaped. Marin continued. I'm having dinner on Sunday. We're not coming if this is an ambush, Lydia said. It isn't. I told Evan I was inviting you. What did he say? He said it's my house. That's not an answer. It's the answer you're getting. I took the phone off speaker and held it to my ear. Marin, what are you trying to do? Eat one meal without taking separate phone calls from every member of this family. You don't have to fix this. I'm not fixing it. I'm setting a table. That's how it starts, Lydia said. Maren heard her anyway. Come at 5, she said. Bring nothing. She hung up. Lydia picked at the cheese on her pizza. We don't have to go, I said. Yes, we do. Why? Because if we stay home, Evan will say we refuse to be in a room with him. He may say that anyway. I know. Then why go? She looked toward the top shelf of the refrigerator, where 2 potatoes from the previous Sunday still waited in the pantry, and a container of burnt vegetables had replaced the roast. Because I want to see my son, she said. The honesty of it quieted me. I want to see him too, I said. Lydia nodded. Neither of us pretended wanting him. There meant we knew what to do once he arrived. At 4:30 on Sunday, Lydia stood in our kitchen holding an apple pie. Maren said, Bring nothing, I said. She didn't mean dessert. She said nothing. People say that. Maren doesn't. That woman once returned a birthday gift, because I included batteries she didn't request. Lydia looked down at the pie. She had baked it that afternoon, while insisting she was only using apples that were about to go bad. We could leave it here, I said, and eat an entire pie ourselves? Yes. That's your answer to too many situations. She put the pie on the counter and covered it with a towel. We arrived at Maren's condo at 5 exactly, empty-handed and already tense. Evan's car was parked in front. Lydia saw it and slowed. You all right? I asked. No. Want to go home? No. You're giving me a limited range of options. I'm not a vending machine. Evan opened the door before we knocked. He wore jeans and a charcoal button-down, with the sleeves rolled neatly to his elbows. He looked rested. Hey, he said. Hey, I answered. Lydia said nothing. He stepped aside. When she crossed the threshold, he hugged her. For a second, she kept both arms at her sides, then one hand lifted and pressed between his shoulder blades. I turned away, pretending to inspect Maren's coat rack. You look good, Mom, Evan said when he released her. So do you. Dad. Son? That's warm, Maren called from the kitchen. Come in before the neighbors report an emotional disturbance. Her condo had one long room downstairs, kitchen at one end and a living area at the other. Everything had a place. Her record stood alphabetized beside the television, which Claire would probably have appreciated. Evan's gym bag sat beside the stairs, half-zipped, one sock trapped in it like a surrender flag. Maren was pulling a baking dish from the oven. Sit, she said. Nobody help. Lydia hovered near the counter. I could toss the salad. The salad is tossed. Do you want me to slice bread? It came sliced. What kind of household is this? One that planned for you. Evan opened a cabinet and took down wine glasses. Maren watched him. Those aren't the everyday glasses. We have guests. We are the guests, I said. He smiled at me. Good to see nothing's changed. Maren took the glasses from him and replaced them with shorter ones. I'm saving those. For what? People who don't question the glass. He raised both hands. On the counter stood an open bottle of red wine with an expensive-looking label. Maren picked it up. Did you open this? Last night. I was saving it. You've been saving it for 3 years. That's how saving works. It was going bad. It was sealed. I'll replace it. You don't know what it cost. I can read a label. You couldn't read the note taped to it? Evan's expression changed just enough to let us know Maren had embarrassed him. I said I'd replace it. And I said, don't touch my stuff. Lydia looked at me. I looked very seriously at a bowl of olives. Maren carried the wine to the table. House rules for dinner, she said. No one mentions Claire. No one uses the phrase family loyalty. Dad doesn't deliver a speech. Mom doesn't clean my kitchen. Evan does not tell anybody what they secretly mean. What if I know? Evan asked. You don't. I can work with these rules, I said. No speeches includes commentary on the rules. We sat. Maren had made baked ziti, salad, and garlic bread. She served Lydia first, then me, then Evan. He looked at his plate. What? Nothing. Maren narrowed her eyes. Say it. I thought you were making the chicken. I changed my mind. You told me chicken. Then I committed an act of personal growth. You know tomato sauce gives me heartburn. You are 37. We own antacids. Lydia reached for her water. I like ziti, Evan said. Beautiful. We've healed. For the first few minutes, we talked about safe subjects. My trip to the garage, Lydia's pottery, a leak in Maren's upstairs plumbing, that had been fixed by a man who apparently regarded caulk as a philosophy rather than a material. Evan asked to see a photograph of Lydia's bowl. "It has a hole in it," I said. "I didn't ask you." I put a bite of ziti in my mouth. Lydia showed him the picture on her phone. "It's pretty," he said. "It can't hold anything. Then it takes after Dad." I laughed before I could stop myself. Evan smiled. Lydia didn't. "That was a joke," he said. "I know. You used to laugh. I used to laugh at a lot of things because it was faster." Maren put down her fork. "Do we need a rule about humor?" "You'd violate it first," I said. She pointed at me. "Speech adjacent." Evan tore a piece of bread in half. "I'm trying to be normal," he said. "So am I," Lydia replied. "No, you're waiting for me to do something wrong. I'm waiting to see what you do. What's the difference? One has already decided." He sat back. Maren looked between them. "This is the part where one of you says something true without using it to injure the other." "That's not one of the rules," Evan said. "It's a late amendment." Lydia laid her napkin beside her plate. "I missed you," she said. Evan's face softened. "I missed you too. I wanted to call every day." "You could have. So could you. I thought you wanted space. I wanted you to think about what happened." "I did." "And?" He looked at his plate. "I'm sorry you cried." The room became very quiet. Lydia waited. "That's it?" Evan asked. "I don't know." "You wanted an apology." "I wanted you to be sorry you hurt me." "I am." "You said you're sorry I cried." "That's what happened." "No. What happened is you accused me of abandoning you, called me a coward, and kept eating when I walked away." Maren closed her eyes. "Pantry rule," Evan said. "There was no pantry rule," Maren replied. "There should have been." He turned to Lydia. "I was angry. I said things too harshly. I'm sorry for that. Thank you. But you did call Claire the next morning." Maren slapped one hand against the table. "Claire rule. I'm not talking about Claire. I'm talking about Mom. You're talking about your mother as if her apology to another person was an offense against you," I said. "Speech," Maren warned. "I'm responding. Respond shorter." Evan's jaw moved. Lydia said, "The timing hurt you. I understand that." He looked at her. "I had just asked you not to interfere. You asked me to interfere on your side. I asked for help, and I said no." "That's the whole story to you now, isn't it?" I asked. "You said no. I'm a monster." "No." "Then say what I am." "My son." "That doesn't sound like much anymore." Lydia reached across the table. Evan looked at her hand, then took it. For several seconds nobody moved. It was not forgiveness. It was not nothing. Maren stood abruptly and began collecting plates. "We're having pie," she said. "You said not to bring anything," Lydia replied. "I bought one." "What kind?" "Apple." Lydia looked at me. I kept my face neutral. Maren's pie came from a grocery store and had a crust the color of a manila folder. Lydia ate one bite and declared it good. This was how I knew she loved her daughter. After dinner, Evan followed me into the kitchen while Maren showed Lydia a loose hinge upstairs. "Can you talk to Mom?" he asked. "I am capable of it. Tell her I apologized. She heard you. She's acting like I didn't." "She thanked you. You know what I mean?" I loaded a plate into the dishwasher. "Ask her. She turns everything around. Then say what you mean and let her answer what she means." He stared at me. "You've become very wise in retirement. I have time. Dad. I'm not carrying messages. You had no problem carrying her message when you took my plate. That was my message." He opened his mouth, then closed it. Upstairs, Lydia laughed at something Maren said. Evan looked toward the sound. "She's happier without me," he said. "That isn't what laughing means. It's what it feels like." "I know." He rubbed his palms against his jeans. "Do you think she'll invite me next Sunday?" "I don't know. You could ask." "So could you." "That worked well last time." I closed the dishwasher. "You want me to make it safe before you risk hearing no." He looked at me with something close to hatred. Then he said, "You're one to talk." He was right, which did not make him less angry. The drive home was quiet. At a red light, Lydia put her hand on mine. "He apologized," I said. "Partly?" "Partly is something." "Yes." "You didn't invite him?" "No." "You wanted to?" "Yes." The light turned green. I drove with her hand resting over mine until we reached our street. Maren called Wednesday evening. Lydia was upstairs trimming the edge of a clay dish. I was attempting chili from a recipe that used the phrase season to taste as if taste were a measurable unit. You busy? Marin asked. I'm cooking. So, no. What's wrong? Nothing. The word had family history. Marin, he doesn't sleep. Evan? No, the plumber. I turn down the stove. What's happening? He paces. He watches television until 2. Then he gets up at 6 and makes coffee strong enough to remove paint. He's upset. I know. He'll go home when the bathroom's fixed. It was fixed yesterday. I waited. He says the apartment still smells damp. Does it? How would I know? I haven't been invited over because apparently entering homes is a complicated topic now. What do you want me to do? Nothing. Then why are you calling? I wanted to understand how you do it. Do what? Have him in your house without strangling him. I smiled despite myself. He criticized the wine, she continued. He rearranged my refrigerator because I stored dairy inefficiently. This morning, he asked if I was always this tense before work. What did you say? I told him I wasn't tense before he arrived. How'd that go? He said I was blaming him for my personality. That sounds familiar. Don't enjoy this. I'm not. You are a little. A little. She sighed. In the background, I heard a cabinet close. Is he there? I asked. In the shower. Do you want him out? I want him to choose to leave without making me throw him out. I leaned against the counter. That may not be one of the available options. I know. Tell him the bathroom is fixed and you need your space. He'll say I'm abandoning him too. He might. And then what? You let him be wrong about you? There was a long pause. When did you learn that? She asked. Recently. The next morning, Evan left Marin's condo. She called Lydia afterward. I heard only Lydia's side from the kitchen. You weren't cruel. A pause. No, offering him a hotel would not have helped. Another pause. You are not responsible for whether he ate breakfast. Lydia closed her eyes as she listened. Then she said, yes. That's what he did to me, too. Marin came over an hour later, carrying Evan's half-used carton of oat milk. He bought it, she said. I don't want to look at it. Lydia took the carton. It's milk, not a threat. It tastes like wet cardboard, then throw it away. That feels wasteful. Now you understand how he gets fed. Marin dropped into a chair at the kitchen table. She wore the same gray coat she'd worn after the pantry incident, this time buttoned wrong. One side hung lower than the other. How did he leave? I asked, through the door. Marin, he made coffee, he showered. He took one of my travel mugs, by the way. You said he could, Lydia reminded her. I said he could use it. He interpreted that as permanent transfer of ownership. Marin. She rubbed both hands over her face. I told him the bathroom was fixed and I needed my office back. He said he'd been sleeping on a fold-out couch that was ruining his neck. I said he had a bed at his apartment. He said the place smelled like mildew. Does it? Lydia asked. He brought 2 shirts over yesterday because he ran out of clean clothes. That doesn't answer the question. It smells like an apartment where somebody opened a wall. It's not uninhabitable. And then, I asked. He said he thought family was supposed to show up when things were hard. I said I had shown up. He said letting him sleep in my office while I acted irritated wasn't support. Lydia placed the oat milk in the refrigerator. Marin watched her. He asked what was for breakfast while I was telling him to leave. None of us spoke. I had yogurt, she continued. Apparently yogurt isn't breakfast unless there's something hot with it. He likes oatmeal, Lydia said automatically. Marin laughed once. Lydia closed the refrigerator. I heard it. Did you? Yes. Because for a second, you looked like you were going to make oatmeal and drive it across town. I might have. Mom, I didn't. Marin's expression collapsed. She looked suddenly less angry and more ashamed. I understand why you kept doing it, she said. That doesn't make it right. No. It also doesn't make him a monster. I didn't say it did. You're telling the story like you collected evidence. I am telling you what happened. You're telling it, so I'll agree with you about him. Marin stared at her. Isn't that what we're doing? She asked, finally agreeing about him. No. We're agreeing about what he did. What's the difference? The difference is whether we leave him any room to do something else. Marin stood and began pacing. He called me selfish in my own house. And you want me to say he is selfish? He is. He acted selfishly. Oh, come on. I spent years putting a permanent label on Claire every time she disappointed him. Cold, difficult, controlling. I'm not doing it again in the other direction. This is why people talk to Dad. I raised one hand. I object to being introduced as the reasonable alternative. Neither of them acknowledged me. Marin stopped at the counter. Do you know why I invited him to stay? She asked. Because I thought you were overreacting. I know. I thought he was grieving and you had suddenly decided to teach him a lesson. I know that too. I thought I could be supportive without turning into you. Lydia leaned against the refrigerator. And I turned into me, which was apparently unacceptable. The corner of Lydia's mouth moved. Marin started crying before she seemed aware of it. She wiped her cheek angrily. This is stupid. It isn't. He's my brother. I love him. I also wanted to smother him with one of my office pillows. Those pillows are decorative, I said. You'd ruin them. Marin laughed through her tears. Lydia crossed the kitchen and put her arms around her. Marin resisted for half a second, then folded. I let you do too much, she said into Lydia's shoulder. What? Holidays, birthdays, all of it. I told myself, you liked hosting. I do. You like parts of it. Yes. I show up with wine and leave with leftovers. You bring flowers sometimes. Flowers are what people bring when they want credit without labor. That sounds like something you've been saving. Since Thanksgiving 3 years ago. Lydia rubbed her back. I could have asked for help. You did. I said I'd come early, then arrive 20 minutes before dinner. You had work. I always have work. So did I. That settled over all three of us. I stirred the chili while they talked. It had thickened to something closer to mortar. The recipe claimed it served 6, but the pot contained enough to seal a driveway. You staying for dinner? I asked Marin. What are we having? Chili. Did you make it? Yes. She looked at Lydia. We have antacids, Lydia said. Marin stayed. The chili was not terrible. This was different from being good, but I accepted the distinction as progress. Lydia added sour cream without comment. Marin ate 2 bowls, either from hunger or solidarity. Afterward, she carried every dish to the sink. You don't have to do all that, Lydia said. I'm retraining. You loaded the bowls backward, I told her. Both women looked at me. I'm also retraining, I said. Marin left the oat milk but took the leftovers. Saturday morning, I went with Lydia to the pottery studio. She had not asked me. I had asked whether visitors were allowed, and she said, as long as they don't explain ceramics to anybody. The studio occupied an old brick building behind a hardware store. It smelled like wet earth and burnt dust. 12 adults sat at long tables, shaping, trimming, or glazing objects that looked more confident than Lydia's bowl. A woman named Janice greeted Lydia, then looked at me. This the retired one? Recently released, Lydia said. Can he lift kiln shelves? I can hear you both, I said. They put me to work moving kiln shelves. I like the weight of them. I like being told where they went. The difference between that and the garage was small enough to make me uncomfortable. Lydia worked at a wheel. Her first piece rose crookedly, wobbled, and collapsed under her hands. She laughed. Not the short laugh she used when she wanted to let someone off the hook. A real laugh, low and surprised. She scraped the ruined clay aside and started again. I stood 10 feet away holding a shelf and realized I had not seen her fail happily in years. On the drive home, she had clay under her fingernails and a streak near her jaw. Your birthday's next month, I said. I'm aware. What do you want to do? Not cook. Good. I also don't want a surprise. I've never successfully surprised you. You tried once. You found the restaurant reservation. You wrote the time on the calendar. I was being organized. You wrote surprise dinner. We had a nice time. We did. She looked out the window. I don't want my birthday used as a peace treaty, she said. I won't. I mean by any of us. I know. Evan called that evening. He called me, not her. I was wiping down the stove after dinner. Lydia sat at the table working on a crossword. Hey, I said. Hey. He sounded formal. How's the apartment? Fine. Bathroom, fixed. Good. A pause stretched. What do you need? I asked. I don't need anything. That sounded more hostile than I intended. You're allowed. I glanced at Lydia. She was watching me over her reading glasses. I wanted to talk about Mom's birthday, Evan said. What about it? I want to do dinner. At a restaurant? She hates restaurants on her birthday. That's news to me. She likes being at home. She said she doesn't want to cook. Of course she doesn't want to cook her own birthday dinner. We can help. What does help mean? I'll bring wine. Marin can do dessert. You can set the table. And the food? Mom makes that roast every year. I closed my eyes. What? He asked. Nothing. That means something. I recognized the phrase and nearly laughed. Have you asked your mother? I'm asking you. Why? Because I'm trying not to upset her. So you want me to upset her first. I want to make a plan, then talk to her. I don't know if she'll answer. She's 3 feet away. Lydia lowered her pencil. I held out the phone. She shook her head. He wants to plan your birthday dinner, I said. I heard. Talk to him. You talk to him. We have recently established that I shouldn't. She took the phone. Hello, Evan. I remain by the stove. Yes, your father told me. A pause. I hadn't made plans. Another pause. Why here? She listened. No, I don't hate restaurants. She looked at me. I raised my eyebrows. No, I said. The food at Marco's was overpriced once. That isn't the same as hating all restaurants. Evan spoke for a while. Lydia's expression changed. Some of the tension left her mouth. I miss that too, she said. She carried the phone into the living room. I stayed in the kitchen. I could hear the murmur of her voice and, occasionally, a sharper word from Evan. When she came back, the call had ended. Well, I asked. He wants dinner here. I gathered. He wants Marin to come. And? He said he wants to apologize properly. I leaned against the counter. Do you believe him? I believe he wants things to feel normal. That wasn't my question. No. She picked up her crossword pencil. What did you decide? I said yes. To dinner? To dinner here. Lydia, it's my birthday. Exactly. I know what he expects. He expects you to cook a roast. I told him I would choose the menu, which means you're cooking. Yes. You said you didn't want to. I changed my mind. Why? She rolled the pencil between her fingers. Because I need to know whether I can make food for my family without turning it into proof that everything is forgiven. That sounds like a test. It is. For him. For me. The week of her birthday, Lydia bought a roast. She put it on the bottom shelf of the refrigerator, beneath the vegetables, and beside a carton of oat milk neither of us had been willing to throw away. I looked at it every time I opened the door. It did not look like peace. It looked like 4 pounds of expectation wrapped in white paper. On Thursday morning, Lydia turned 63. I made breakfast before she came downstairs. The toast was dark but edible, the eggs were scrambled before they entered the pan, and the coffee had been measured with something other than instinct. She stood in the kitchen doorway wearing her robe. Who are you? Your husband. Can you prove it? I know where you hide the good chocolate. That information is not exclusive. I kissed her. Happy birthday. She looked at the table. You cut fruit. I used a knife. Was anyone notified? Sit down before I change my mind. My gift was a lamp for the pottery table, one that clamped to the edge and bent in 3 places. Lydia turned the box over and read every side. You noticed I needed one. The old lamp hasn't worked since March. You remembered. I remember many things. I just don't always reveal them promptly. She smiled and kissed me again. For a few minutes, her birthday belonged only to us. Then she opened the refrigerator. The roast sat on the bottom shelf. You don't have to do this, I said. I know. We could cancel. I know. We could go out. I know. You could let me cook. That's the least convincing option. I've improved. You've become less dangerous. She lifted the roast onto the counter. I want to make it. Because you want to, or because Evan expects it? Both. That's not an answer I know what to do with. You don't have to do anything with it. I had heard that phrase enough times to know it was not dismissal. Sometimes the honest answer didn't come with an assignment. We worked in the kitchen together. Lydia seasoned the meat. I peeled potatoes. She showed me how to cut the carrots on an angle, then left the room while I did it so neither of us would turn vegetables into a referendum on competence. At noon, Marin called to ask if she should arrive early. At 5:30, Lydia said. Dinner is 6. What can I do? Bring dessert. I bought a pie. From where? A bakery. What kind? Apple. Lydia looked toward me. I covered my mouth. What? Marin asked. Nothing. That sounds like something. Your father has opinions about apple pie. I have facts, I said. 5:30, Lydia repeated. Bring the pie. Evan did not call. By 4, the whole house smelled like onions and rosemary. Lydia showered and put on dark pants with a cream-colored blouse. She wore the small gold earrings Marin had given her 2 birthdays earlier. I changed shirts twice. You're not the one who has to apologize, Lydia said from the bedroom mirror. No, I'm the one who has to avoid a speech. That does require preparation. Should I make note cards? I'll burn them. Downstairs, I set 5 places. Lydia stood in the dining room and counted. 5. Marin, Evan, you, me. That's 4. I looked at the table. There were 5 plates. For one embarrassing second, I could not explain the extra one. I had set Evan's old place and then added him beside Lydia without realizing it. I'll remove it, I said. Leave it. For who? No one. She picked up the plate herself and carried it to the cabinet. Marin arrived at 5:20 with a bakery box, a bottle of sparkling water, and a bouquet of tulips. No wine? I asked. She took off her coat. We're doing this sober. Wise. She hugged Lydia and handed her the flowers. These are from me. I'm announcing that because floral motives are under scrutiny. They're beautiful. Marin looked toward the kitchen. It smells good. Your father helped. Is everything insured? Confidence in me remains high. At 5:40, Evan pulled into the driveway. He sat in his car for almost a minute before getting out. Lydia watched through the front window. Her hands were clasped so tightly that one thumb had gone white. You don't have to answer the door, I said. I invited him. That doesn't make you the doorman, Marin said. I opened it. Evan stood on the porch holding yellow roses, a paper gift bag, and the expression of a man arriving for a business meeting he had requested. Happy birthday, Mom, he said past me. Lydia came forward. He handed her the roses and hugged her. This time, she hugged him immediately. I love you, he said. I love you too. He held her a second longer. When they separated, he offered me his hand. Dad. I shook it. Marin hugged him. You look tired. You look tense. Excellent start. He smiled. I'm kidding. I know. Lydia carried the roses to the kitchen. There were already tulips in her blue pitcher, so I found a glass vase under the sink. Evan followed me. Need help? He asked. You can fill this. He turned on the faucet. His eyes moved toward the stairs. Did you change the spare room? Your mother put a pottery table in there. She didn't mention that. It came up recently. He dried his hands and went upstairs. Lydia looked at me from across the kitchen. I didn't know he was going up there. You don't need permission to move a table. I know. Marin opened the bakery box. Do you want me to hide in the pantry until this part's over? No one is hiding anywhere, Lydia said. Evan came down carrying Lydia's green bowl. This is the one with the hole? Yes. He turned it over in his hands. It's nice. Thank you. What happened to the bed? It's against the wall. Can anyone still sleep there? If they need to. It doesn't look like a guest room. It isn't only a guest room. He returned the bowl to the living room shelf. That was quick, he said. Lydia's face changed. What was? Nothing. No, say it. I've been gone a few weeks, and my room is a pottery studio. You moved out 19 years ago. It was still my room. It was a room you slept in when you visited, or when I needed somewhere to go. Marin shut the pie box. Tonight is not about furniture. Evan looked at her. Easy for you to say. Your room still looks exactly the same. No, it doesn't. Mom stores Christmas decorations in it. Festive. Lydia opened the oven and checked the roast. You returned the key, she said. What does that have to do with the room? Nothing. I'm trying to understand what you expected me to preserve. I didn't expect anything. You sound like you did. I made an observation. We carried food into the dining room at 6. The roast rested on a white platter, surrounded by carrots. The potatoes were in the blue bowl Lydia had used since our first apartment. Marin brought salad. Evan carried the bread. Nobody sat until Lydia did. Before she could reach for the carving knife, Evan lifted his water glass. I want to say something. Marin lowered herself slowly into her chair. Evan looked at Lydia. I'm sorry for what happened, he said. I'm sorry my pain came out in a way that hurt you. I was trying to be honest, and I didn't understand how overwhelmed you already were. Lydia's hand rested beside her plate. He continued. I'm sorry Dad walked in at the worst possible moment and decided one mistake meant I didn't respect either of you. I'm sorry the last month has become about that instead of what I was going through. Marin stared at her salad. Evan turned to me. And I'm sorry I hung up on you. I waited. That's all? I asked. Ray, Lydia said, I'm asking. I said I was sorry. You explained why everyone else misunderstood you. I knew you'd do this. Do what? Move the target. Marin leaned forward. The target was being sorry you hurt Mom. I am sorry. Without a but, she said. I didn't say but. You built an entire paragraph around it. Evan looked at Lydia. Is that what you think? Lydia's voice was quiet. I think you're sorry we aren't over it. His face reddened. I came here. Yes, I brought flowers. I tried to apologize. Yes. What else do you want? I want you to stop making your pain the reason nobody else's counts. He sat back. Fine. Lydia looked at the food. Evan picked up a piece of bread. So when are we eating? He asked. No one answered. What? He said. The food's getting cold. He tore the bread and put half on his plate. Lydia stood. She picked up the roast platter. Evan stared at her. What are you doing? I'm not doing this. Doing what? Feeding you while you turn my birthday into another trial where you're the injured person. I just apologized. No, you gave me a list of reasons I shouldn't have been hurt. That's not what I said. It's what you meant. His chair scraped backward. Oh, now you can tell me what I mean? Yes, she said, because you've spent years teaching me the difference between your words and their purpose. He looked around the table. Is everyone in on this? No, I said. Lydia looked at me. I stopped. Evan pointed toward the platter. You cooked this. You invited me. What did you expect? I expected my son. I'm standing right here. My son is a man I love. He is not a hunger I have to keep proving I can satisfy. His mouth opened. Lydia held the platter against her body. I love you, she said. I regret the ways I helped you become someone who hears no as rejection. I regret making Claire your enemy because it kept me important. I will not make up for that by serving you while you insult me. I didn't insult you. You called me too overwhelmed to understand your honesty. That's not an insult. Then eat somewhere it isn't. She carried the roast into the kitchen. I looked at Evan. For years I would have stayed. I would have explained Lydia to him, explained him to Lydia, reduced the distance until everybody could step over it without admitting it was there. I stood and followed my wife. Marin remained seated. Evan looked at her. Seriously? She folded her napkin. I love you, she said. That isn't the same as agreeing to this. She came into the kitchen too. Evan stayed at the table. Through the doorway, I could see him sitting alone with bread on his plate and 3 untouched place settings around him. He did not look triumphant. He looked abandoned. That was the cost Lydia had spent weeks trying not to see. He sat there for less than a minute. Then his chair moved. The front door opened and closed without slamming. The yellow roses remained on the counter. Lydia set the roast beside them and gripped the edge of the sink. Marin touched her shoulder. I ruined it, Lydia said. No, Marin replied. Don't tell me what this was. Marin removed her hand. I stood beside Lydia without touching her. Her face crumpled. She covered it with both hands and cried in the kitchen in full view of us. Do you want us to leave? I asked. She shook her head. Do you want me to hold you? Another shake. I stayed anyway. After a moment, Lydia reached blindly for my hand. Marin took the other one. The roast cooled on the counter. After Lydia stopped crying, Marin took the platter from her and put it back in the oven. Nobody asked whether we should. It was simply easier to manage meat than what had happened in the dining room. I cleared Evan's plate. The bread he had torn lay in 2 neat pieces. Leave it, Lydia said. I set it in the sink anyway. She looked toward the front hall. His gift. A paper bag sat beneath the entry table. The tissue paper was yellow, matching the roses. Evan had placed it there when he arrived, and all of us had forgotten it. You don't have to open it, Marin said. It's my birthday. Lydia carried the bag to the kitchen. Inside was a heavy canvas pottery apron with leather straps and deep pockets. Her name had been stitched across the front in green thread. There was no card. She ran her thumb over the letters. He noticed, she said. Yes, I replied. That's almost worse. Marin leaned against the counter. It's allowed to be a good gift, I know. He can give a good gift and still behave badly. I know. You don't have to make the apron guilty. Lydia laughed weakly. You've become very wise since Thursday. I had an intensive course. We ate at 7:30. The roast was dry from reheating. The carrots had gone soft. and Marin's bakery pie was better than any of us wanted to admit. We sat at the kitchen table instead of returning to the dining room. Lydia wore the pottery apron over her cream blouse because Marin insisted. No one made a birthday toast. When Marin left, she packed a container of roast and another of potatoes. For lunch? I asked, for proof I contributed. You brought pie. I purchased pie. There's a difference. At the door, she hugged Lydia, then me. Call me tomorrow, she said. I will, Lydia promised. Marin looked at me. Make sure she does. Your mother no longer accepts assignments through me. Good point. After she drove away, Lydia put the yellow roses and Marin's tulips together in the blue pitcher. The colors clashed. You hate yellow roses, I said. No, I don't. You said they look like apology flowers. They do. Isn't that hating them? It's observing them. She trimmed every stem and changed the water. Evan did not call that night. He did not call the next morning either. At noon, Lydia took off the pottery apron, folded it, and placed it on the spare room table. She didn't wear it to the studio. I found her birthday blouse soaking in the laundry sink. Is there a stain? Gravy. I looked at the pale brown spot near the cuff. I can get that out. With what? I'll research. She handed me the bottle of stain remover that had been 6 inches from my elbow. Start with existing technology. I treated the cuff. The spot faded but did not disappear. Neither did anything else. Marin received a message from Evan 2 days later. She called to read it to us, then changed her mind halfway through. You don't need the exact words, she said. He thinks we set him up. We didn't, Lydia said. I know. What did he say about the dinner? That it wasn't a dinner. It was an intervention disguised as his mother's birthday. I looked at the remains of the roast in our refrigerator. He proposed it, I said. He says that's why it worked. What worked? The trap. Lydia sat down at the table. Did he say anything else? Marin hesitated. What? Lydia asked. He said he's done begging people to love him. Lydia's face went still. He never begged, I said. Dad, I'm stating a fact. Facts can be unhelpful. Lydia rubbed the faint silver mark the key had left days earlier, though it had long since vanished from her skin. Did you answer? She asked. I said I loved him and would talk when he was ready to talk about what happened without accusing everybody of conspiring. That's good. He didn't respond. He will. Marin didn't say she was sure. The yellow roses lasted 9 days. Lydia kept cutting the stems shorter and moving them into smaller containers. By the end, 3 blooms sat in a juice glass beside the sink. Evan's silence lasted longer. I called once. It was a Wednesday afternoon. Lydia was at the studio. I stood in the garage beside the drawer labels I had made and listened to his phone ring. His voicemail still said, "You know what to do." I did not. The beep came. "Hey," I said, "it's Dad." Then I hung up. He knew it was me. Announcing myself seemed like the sort of foolish thing a father did when he had nothing else prepared. Lydia found the call in my face when she came home. Did you talk to him? No. You called? Yes. Did you leave a message? A partial one. What did you say? Hey, it's Dad. That's compelling. I panicked. You repair diesel engines. They don't ask why you failed them. She set down her pottery bag. I'm not angry you called. I know. You looked like you expected me to be. I didn't know. You're allowed to miss him without my permission. I do. So do I. I sat on the bottom stair. Sometimes I think if you hadn't called Claire, Lydia didn't move. The rest of the sentence waited between us, fully formed and already regretted. I finished it anyway. Maybe it wouldn't have gone this far. Her expression barely changed. Do you mean that? No. You mean part of it. I mean the call gave him something to focus on, instead of what he did. Yes. And if I hadn't called, what would he have focused on? I don't know. He would have focused on you taking the plate, or me asking him to leave, or the key, or the room. He always finds the place where someone else acted so he doesn't have to stay where he did. I know. But there isn't a but. There was. It came before the sentence. I rubbed both hands over my face. I want my son back. So do I. You seem better at living without him. I'm better at performing it. That hurt more than anger would have. She sat beside me on the stair. I think about calling him every morning, she said. I make deals with myself. If he calls before lunch, I'll answer. If he apologizes to Marin, I'll invite him Sunday. If he asks about pottery, I'll wear the apron. You haven't worn it? No. I thought I saw clay on it. That was from my hands when I folded it. I put my arm around her. What if he doesn't call? I asked. She leaned against me. Then we keep being people. Claire brought the serving dishes back in January. I opened the door and found her on the porch holding 2 white bowls stacked inside each other. She wore a black wool coat and had cut her hair to her chin. Hi, Ray. Claire, I should have called. You did. Months ago. I mean, today. Come in. She hesitated before stepping across the threshold. Lydia came down the stairs wearing the pottery apron. For one strange second, all 3 of us looked at it. It's nice, Claire said. Evan gave it to me. I know. Of course she knew. Evan had probably asked her what size Lydia wore before the separation. A good gift could have a long history. Claire held out the bowls. I found these in the cabinet above the refrigerator. I'd forgotten about them, Lydia said. I hadn't. I just couldn't reach them without climbing on the counter. I should have told you where the step stool was. I found it eventually. They smiled at each other, then lost the smile at the same time. Lydia took the bowls. Would you like coffee? Yes. That surprised all of us. We sat at the kitchen table. Claire wrapped both hands around her mug, but didn't drink. I told Evan it's over, she said. Lydia looked toward me, then back at Claire. Was there still a question? To him? What did he say? That I waited until his family turned against him, because I wanted to make sure he had no one. Lydia's eyes closed briefly. I'm sorry. Don't be. I didn't come to make you feel responsible. Why did you come? For the dishes. Claire? Claire looked into her coffee. And because I wanted you to hear from me that your phone call didn't end anything. It didn't change my decision. It changed something, Lydia said. It changed whether I thought I had imagined all of it. The refrigerator motor clicked on. I cleared my throat. I owe you an apology, too. Claire glanced at me. For the jokes, I said. For laughing when Evan talked about you. For assuming you 2 would work it out because that meant I didn't have to ask questions. She waited. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do with that. You don't have to do anything. Lydia looked at me. I knew I had borrowed the line. It still fit. Claire nodded once. She drank half her coffee, then asked Lydia about pottery. They talked for 10 minutes about clay, glazes, and whether a bowl with a hole still counted as a bowl. Claire said it did if it held light. I nearly accused her of stealing my candle idea. I restrained myself. At the door, Lydia hugged her. Claire stiffened, then returned it. She did not hug me, which seemed fair. Afterward, Lydia placed the white serving bowls in the cabinet, not above the refrigerator, on a lower shelf. The months became ordinary in ways that felt almost offensive. I learned to make soup. Lydia learned to center clay on the wheel. Marin hosted a dinner and assigned each of us a dish. Mine was salad, which I considered insulting until I ruined the dressing. We spoke about Evan less because every conversation reached the same locked door. Sometimes Lydia cooked too much. Sometimes I set out a third place before catching myself. Once, Marin called him, and he answered, but he kept the conversation to the leaking bathroom and her travel mug. He mailed the mug back without a note. Winter thinned. One afternoon, I was at the pottery studio attaching a new shelf to the wall. Lydia sat at the wheel, wearing the apron Evan had given her. My phone vibrated. I expected Marin. It was the doorbell camera. Evan stood on our porch with his hands in his coat pockets. He had no gym bag, no flowers, no reason I could see. He rang again and waited. I showed Lydia the screen. The wheel continued spinning beneath her hands, turning a gray cylinder of clay that might have become a mug if our son had chosen another afternoon. She looked at the image. How long has he been there? 2 minutes. Did he call? No. The camera sent another alert. Evan had moved out of view, then back again. He pressed the bell a third time. Janice glanced over from the glaze table. Everything all right? My son's at the house, Lydia said. Was he expected? No. Janice wiped her hands on her apron. Do you want me to lock the doors? It's our house. I mean here. People follow people. Lydia looked surprised, then shook her head. It isn't like that? Janice nodded without asking what it was like. I put down the drill. We can leave now, I said. Lydia looked at the unfinished clay. He may not wait. He might. She reached toward the wheel and pressed her fingers into the spinning mug. It collapsed instantly. What was that for? I asked. I wasn't going to be able to finish it. She turned off the wheel, took the ruined clay in both hands, and placed it in the reclaim bucket. Then she washed her hands. She did not rush. She scrubbed clay from under every fingernail, wiped the table, hung her tools, and covered the remaining block of clay with plastic. I watched the doorbell camera while she worked. Evan sat on the porch step. "If he leaves before we get there," she said, "then he wasn't ready to wait. He's been waiting months. So have we." She kept the pottery apron on beneath her coat. When we pulled into the driveway, Evan stood. He looked thinner, not dramatically, not in a way designed to make anyone gasp, but his coat hung differently around his shoulders. I turned off the car. Lydia kept both hands in her lap. "Do you want me to go in first?" I asked. "No." "Do you want me to stay in the car?" "No." I feel another vending machine conversation coming. "Get out, Ray." Evan waited beside the porch. "Hi," he said. Lydia closed the car door. "Hi, I didn't know you weren't home. We were at the studio. I figured that out when you didn't answer." He looked at her coat. The lower edge of the canvas apron showed beneath it, her name stitched in green. "You're wearing it?" "Yes." "That's good." She nodded. He shoved his hands deeper into his pockets. "Can I talk to you?" "You are. I mean, inside." Lydia looked toward me. I unlocked the front door. Evan noticed that I used a key. Inside, he took off his coat and draped it over the back of the entry chair. For years, Lydia had asked him not to do that because the chair had a loose spindle. This time, she said nothing. He picked the coat up again and hung it in the closet. None of us mentioned it. We went to the kitchen. "Do you want coffee?" Lydia asked. Evan hesitated. "No, thank you." "Water?" "Sure." She opened a cabinet. "I can get it," he said. He took a glass, filled it at the sink, and sat at the table. Not in his usual chair. He chose the one nearest the doorway. Lydia removed her coat, but kept on the apron. I sat across from Evan. She remained standing. "What brought you here?" she asked. "I wanted to talk." "You said that." I didn't know how else to start. "Start badly." "We'll survive." He looked at the water. "I heard Claire brought the dishes back." "Yes." "She told me." "When?" "A while ago." "What else did she tell you?" "That she had coffee with you. That Dad apologized." His eyes flicked toward me. "She said you didn't ask her to reconsider anything." "I didn't. I thought you would." "Why?" "Because you always wanted us together. I wanted you happy. That isn't the same thing." "No." Evan took a drink. "I kept waiting for Claire to call and tell me you'd contacted her again," he said. "I didn't." "I know." "What does that have to do with coming here?" "I'm getting there." Lydia pulled out a chair and sat beside me. Evan rubbed his thumb over a bead of condensation on the glass. "When Claire told me it was over, I blamed you." "I know. I told myself she had been waiting for you to admit I was the problem. Like she needed an expert witness. I am not an expert on your marriage. No." He looked at Lydia. "You were one of the people I used to make her feel wrong." Lydia did not move. "I'd tell her you agreed with me," he continued. "Sometimes you had. Sometimes you'd said something close enough that I could make it fit. And sometimes I knew what you would say. You invented it." "Yes." The words seemed to cost him. "What did you invent?" she asked. Evan looked toward the window. "Does it matter? It matters to me." He pressed his lips together. "I told her you said she treated affection like currency." "I never said that." "I know. Did you think it?" "No." "Then where did it come from?" "Me." Lydia's hand tightened around the edge of the table. "What else?" "I don't remember every sentence." "I think you do. I remember enough." "Then tell me." "Lyd," I said. She looked at me. I lifted both hands. "Sorry." Evan gave a quiet, humorless laugh. "What?" I asked. "Nothing." "Say it." "You still do that." "Do what?" "Step in, realize you stepped in, then make the apology the important part." I leaned back. "That's fair." He waited for me to explain. I didn't. Lydia said, "You don't have to list everything today, but you don't get to tell me it doesn't matter." "I'm not." "You asked if it did." "I was hoping it didn't." "Why?" "Because I'm already here." The honesty of that changed the air. He lowered his head. "I've been trying to find a version of this conversation where I don't lose," he said. "There may not be one," Lydia replied. "I know." Outside, a truck passed, tires hissing over wet pavement. Evan turned the water glass a quarter turn. "The night Dad found you in the pantry," he said, "I knew you were crying." Lydia's face went still. I had expected him to say it eventually. I had not expected how angry it would make me to hear. "You knew," I repeated. He looked at me. "Yes. And you kept eating." "Yes." "Why?" "Ray," Lydia said. "No. I want to hear this." "So do I," she said. "That's why you need to let him answer me." I shut my mouth. Lydia looked at Evan. "Why?" He took a breath. "Because I thought you would come out." "To do what?" "Talk." "You mean apologize. I thought you'd calm down. Comfort you." He closed his eyes briefly. "Yes." Lydia waited. "I knew if I went into the pantry you'd cry harder," he said. "Then I'd feel guilty, and we'd stop talking about what I was angry about. So you punished me." At the time, I thought I was refusing to be manipulated by my crying, by walking away. You wanted me to stay and listen while you called me a coward. I wanted you to admit you'd helped. I already had. Not the way I wanted. What way was that? I wanted you to say Claire was right about you, but wrong about me. Lydia stared at him. He looked down. "That doesn't make sense," he said. "No. I wanted you to take the blame and still defend me. Yes. I know how that sounds." "How does it sound? Like I wanted a mother, not a person." Lydia's breath caught. He continued before she could respond. "When you went into the pantry, part of me knew I'd gone too far. I heard you crying. I thought about getting up. But you didn't. No. You asked for gravy. I know. Why?" He rubbed both palms over his face. "Because if I acted normal, I could make what you were doing look unreasonable." Lydia turned away. "I kept eating because I wanted you to come out and see that I didn't need you to come out. But you were eating my food." "Yes." The contradiction sat there, stripped of every defense. Evan's eyes were wet. "I was angry that you wouldn't fix it," he said. "And I was using the thing you'd made for me while I punished you for not giving me more." Lydia stood. For a moment I thought she was leaving. She walked to the sink and looked out the window above it. Evan did not follow her. That mattered. She turned back on her own. "I wanted you to come after me," she said. "I know. I wanted you to see me crying and stop. I know. I have walked away from your father so he would follow me." "Frequently," I said. Lydia looked at me. "Sorry." Evan almost smiled. She came back to the table but did not sit. "I didn't manipulate you into hurting me," she said. "No. My mistakes do not excuse yours." "No. And your apology does not make me ready to pretend we're fine. I'm not asking you to. You haven't asked me for anything yet. I'm trying not to. That can become its own performance. I know." He looked exhausted. "I'm sorry," he said. "For the pantry, for the phone call, for using things you said against Claire, for telling Claire things you never said, for acting like your food meant I had access to you whenever I wanted, for the birthday." Lydia's eyes filled. "The birthday hurt," she said. "I know. You made me wish I hadn't invited you. I know. I hated myself for that." His face crumpled for a second, then tightened again. "I'm sorry." This time, no explanation followed. Lydia sat. We stayed quiet. The house made its familiar noises around us, the furnace, the refrigerator, a branch tapping lightly against the window. Evan looked at me. "I'm sorry to you, too." "For what? For acting like you chose sides when you did what I should have done. I didn't handle everything well, I know. That wasn't an invitation to agree so quickly." A small laugh escaped him. I leaned forward. "You were right about me at the diner." He waited. "I liked being the calm one because your mother absorbed the noise. I liked that you came here after the separation because you talked to me. I saw it as us getting closer. I didn't ask what it was costing her. I used that. Yes. You also let me." "Yes." He nodded. I felt Lydia looking at me. "None of that makes you responsible for me," Evan said. "No. I think I kept trying to prove you were worse so I didn't have to be bad. Are those the only choices? They felt like it. They aren't. I know that now." "Do you?" "I'm trying," Lydia asked. "Have you apologized to Claire?" His face closed slightly. "Not like this?" "Why not?" "She doesn't want it." "Did she say that?" She said she didn't want another conversation where I made her comfort me. That isn't the same. It might be all I get. Lydia nodded, then respected. I am. What about Marin? I owe her a travel mug. She got it. I owe her more than that. Call her. I will. When? Mom, I'm asking. Tonight. She accepted that. Evan finished his water. He carried the glass to the sink, rinsed it, and opened the dishwasher. You don't have to wash it first, I said. I thought Mom liked it rinsed. She does. I'm trying to reduce unnecessary labor. The dishwasher's unnecessary labor? The rinsing. Ray, Lydia said, I'm still learning. Evan put the glass inside. He returned to the table, but remained standing. Can I come back? He asked. Lydia's face changed. Today? Not to stay. I mean... He stopped. I don't know what I mean. You mean, can things go back? I know they can't. Do you? He looked toward the dining room. I don't want the old version, he said. I just don't know what the new one is. Neither do I. Could we have coffee? You just refuse coffee. Another day. Lydia glanced at me. I kept my face empty. Saturday, she said, at Danner's. His eyes moved to mine. He knew the place. Okay. Coffee, she repeated. Not dinner, I understand. And if you begin telling me what I secretly mean, I will leave. Okay. He put on his coat. At the door, he stopped in front of Lydia. Neither of them seemed certain whether a hug had been earned. He held out one hand. She looked at it, then took it. They stood that way for a moment. I love you, he said. I love you too. It did not solve anything. It also did not sound like a demand. After he drove away, Lydia went upstairs and took off the pottery apron. She hung it on the hook beside her table instead of folding it away. I stood in the doorway. How do you feel? Terrible. Me too. That's probably healthy. Don't become Marin. She sat on the edge of the bed. What if he only said what he thought we wanted to hear? Then Saturday will tell us something. What if I forgive him too quickly? Then the next time will tell us something? What if there is a next time? There will be. She looked at me. That wasn't pessimism, I said. People don't change in one kitchen conversation. No, neither do families. She reached for my hand. What happens now? I asked. Now we see if he can come back, she said, without everything coming back with him. Saturday morning, Lydia changed her shirt 3 times. The first was too formal. The second made her look, according to her, like she was going to a parent-teacher conference, although neither of us could explain what quality produced that impression. She finally chose a navy sweater and jeans. Do you want me to come? I asked. No. You said we when he was here. I meant him and me. I knew that. You did not. I suspected it eventually. She checked the clock. If it goes badly, don't call him. I won't. If it goes well, don't call him. I'm sensing a theme. And don't wait by the window. I'm not a dog. You waited by the window when I went to buy a lawnmower. That salesman had a reputation. She kissed me before she left. I did not wait by the window. I waited in the garage, which had a window. Her car returned 72 minutes later. She came through the mudroom carrying a white paper bag from Danner's. You brought food, I said. Evan ordered toast and didn't eat it. So you brought it home? I paid for it. Of course you did. She set the bag on the counter. How was it? Bad, I waited. And good, she added. Those usually come with details. He asked before he ordered my coffee. That's good? He's known how I take coffee since he was 12. Asking felt strange. Did he order it correctly? Yes. Then maybe the question was ceremonial. It was restraint. She sat at the table. He apologized again. Shorter this time. Then he told me I used guilt when he was growing up. Did you? Sometimes. Did he use it to excuse himself? He started to. What happened? He stopped. Just like that? No. He said, You taught me, and I asked what he meant. He started explaining, then said, I'm doing it again. I opened the paper bag. 2 slices of toast lay inside, 1 buttered and 1 dry. Which is his? The dry one. I ate it. Did you forgive him? I asked. I told him I believed he was sorry. That wasn't my question. I know. She looked toward the pantry. The door stood open. The little wooden stool remained beside the flour, exactly where I had put it back. I don't know what forgiveness is supposed to look like yet, she said. I know it doesn't look like roast beef. Evan called Marin that night. She phoned us after. He apologized, she said. Did he mention the wine? I asked. He led with the wine. Smart. He offered to replace it. Did you tell him what it cost? I sent a photograph. Lydia leaned toward the phone. What else did he say? He said he was sorry for using my house and then calling me selfish when I asked him to leave. That's specific, I said. I requested specificity. Did you forgive him? Lydia asked. I said I believed he was sorry. Lydia looked at me. I looked innocent. Maren continued. I also said I'm still angry. What did he do? Lydia asked. He said, okay, just okay. I know, very suspicious. Their first few meetings happened at Danner's. Coffee had advantages. It came in cups too small to carry a family history, and nobody had to wonder whether the meal was a reward. Sometimes Lydia returned after an hour, sometimes 20 minutes. Once, she came home furious because Evan said she had made Claire feel unwelcome, and when Lydia agreed, he accused her of agreeing too easily so she could appear noble. He told me my apology was self-centered, she said, dropping her purse beside the mudroom door. Was it? That is not currently the useful question. Right. He said if I was really sorry, I would stop talking to Claire. Do you talk to Claire? She sent me a picture of a bowl. Scandalous. It isn't his business. No. He thinks any connection between us is about him. Is it? Ray, I'm checking. She glared at me, then sat down. Partly, she admitted, at first. And now? Now she sends me ugly pottery. Yours is improving. Hers isn't. The next week, Evan apologized for the coffee argument without being asked. Then he missed a Saturday meeting and did not call until an hour afterward. Lydia came home hurt. He said work ran late, she told me. Does that happen? It doesn't matter. It can matter without excusing him. She hated when I used her own logic correctly. Evan called that evening and admitted he had forgotten. He did not say he'd been busy, overwhelmed, or afraid she would overreact. He said he had forgotten and understood why that hurt. Lydia didn't invite him to dinner. That was how the rebuilding went. An apology did not purchase a meal. A good conversation did not erase the bad one before it. Evan had to tolerate progress that did not immediately restore his access to everything he missed. I joined them for coffee the fourth time. At one point, Evan and Lydia disagreed about whether he had invited himself to dinners before the Pantry incident. I always texted, he said. You texted that you were on your way. That gave you notice. Notice is not a question. You could have said no. I thought I couldn't. That isn't my fault. I inhaled. Both of them looked at me. I didn't say anything. You were about to, Lydia said. I breathed. You breathe like a mediator. I have a deviated septum. Evan laughed. Then he looked at Lydia and said, It wasn't my fault that you thought you couldn't say no, but I took advantage of it. She nodded. I drank my coffee and felt unnecessary. This time, it was a relief. Claire remained gone. Evan did not speak about her often. When he did, his grief still arrived carrying an accusation. The difference was that he sometimes noticed before handing it to us. He told me one afternoon that Claire would not meet him. What did you ask her to meet about? To apologize. Did she say she didn't want it? She said she didn't trust me not to make it another argument. That's different from not wanting an apology. I know. What are you going to do? Leave her alone. It came out bitterly. Can you do that without turning it into something she forced you to suffer? I asked. He looked at me. I don't know. It was one of the most honest things he said all year. My marriage changed in quieter ways. Lydia stopped reserving her days for whatever I might want. On Tuesdays, she went to the studio before breakfast. On Thursdays, she stayed until the evening firing finished. At first, I experienced every absence as a criticism. One night I said, We haven't had dinner together in 3 days. She replied, Yesterday you ate at Maren's. That's not the point. What's the point? I heard Evan's voice in my own before I finished the sentence. I miss you, I said. That's different. Yes. She invited me to the studio the next Thursday. I installed shelves, lifted clay, and kept my opinions about glazing to myself. Janice began saving small repairs for me. I liked being useful there, but I waited to be asked. Dennis invited me to the garage for lunch. I went without a wrench. When a mechanic carried a clipboard past, I did not touch it. Everything was good. It still hurt less the second time. Maren hosted the first family dinner. Evan arrived with a bottle of wine to replace the one he'd opened. It was the wrong year. You sent a photograph, he said after she pointed this out. I expected research. I work for a living. So does the internet. She opened it anyway. During dinner, Evan reached for the salt before tasting the potatoes. Marin slapped his hand. House rule. There is no house rule about salt. There is now. He tasted them. They need salt. I know. Everyone laughed, including Marin. Later, he asked before taking leftovers. The question nearly made Lydia cry. She said yes, then went into Marin's kitchen and stood by the sink until it passed. She did not hide. Evan saw her. He remained in his chair because this time she had not left the conversation. When she returned, he asked quietly if she was all right. Not entirely, she said. He accepted the answer. By spring, the pottery table had taken over most of the spare room. Lydia donated the old reading lamp and replaced the faded bedspread. The bed remained. She did not say who it was for. Evan came to our house twice for coffee. He knocked both times. On the second visit, he asked to see the studio. Lydia showed him the green bowl with the hole. I had put a candle inside it. Light spilled through the bottom and made a crooked circle on the table. Claire said it could hold light, Lydia told him. He flinched at her name. Then he said, "She's right." He did not accuse them of talking about him. One Sunday in May, Lydia took a roast from the refrigerator. I was chopping onions for soup. "What's that for?" I asked. "Dinner." I assumed we were eating dinner. I invited Evan. The knife stopped. "You did?" "Yes." "Tonight?" That is how invitations generally work. "Is Marin coming?" "No." "She has plans." Did Evan ask? "No." "You invited him." I just said that. I looked at the roast. "Are you sure?" "No." "Do you want to cancel?" "No." "You're doing the vending machine thing again." She put the roast on the counter. "I want to make this," she said. "I want him here. I also reserve the right to regret both decisions." "That seems fair." He asked what to bring. "What did you tell him?" "A vegetable." Specific. He's an adult, recently established. Evan arrived at 5:50 carrying a covered glass dish. He knocked. Lydia opened the door. He kissed her cheek and handed her the dish. "Green beans," he said. "They're heavy. I made too many." She lifted the cover and tasted one. Evan watched her face. "They're salty," she said. "I know. As how much salt did you use?" "The recipe said season generously." "You were generous. I brought bread in case they're inedible." "They're not inedible." "They're close," I said, after tasting one. "No one asked you," Evan replied. The words hung for half a second. Then he added, "But that's fair." We ate at 6:30. The roast was tender. The potatoes were uneven because I had cut them. The green beans were so salty that each required a sip of water. No one praised them dishonestly. Halfway through dinner, Evan told us he had seen Claire at a grocery store. Lydia's fork stopped. "She was with a friend," he said. We talked for a minute. "How did she seem?" Lydia asked. "Fine." "That must have been hard." "It was." He cut a piece of roast. "I wanted to ask if she was happy," he said. Then I realized I wanted the answer to be no. Lydia looked down at her plate. "I didn't ask," he continued. "I told her I was sorry. Not everything, just that I understood why she didn't want another conversation." "What did she say?" I asked. "She said thank you." "Was that enough?" "No." He considered his answer, but it was what she chose to give me. Lydia remained quiet. Evan lifted his fork, then looked at her. He set it down. "Mom?" She raised her eyes. "Are you all right?" "I'm sad," she said. "For both of you, and for the part I played. You apologized for your part. That doesn't make it disappear." "No." He left his fork beside his plate. Lydia took a breath. "I'm also glad you didn't ask her to make you feel better." "So am I." They sat with that. No one rushed to soften it. No one walked away. The pantry door stood open behind us, and the little wooden stool was empty. After dinner, Evan carried the plates to the sink. "You cooked," he said to Lydia. "I'll wash. I have a dishwasher. Dad says rinsing is unnecessary labor." "I have revised my position," I said. Evan rolled up his sleeves. Lydia sat at the table while he washed the roasting pan. She did not supervise. She did not get up to help. The green bowl in the spare room held its small circle of light. When Evan returned to the table, his plate still held the bite he had not eaten. He looked at his mother before he picked up the fork.